Going deep. Man's there. Got it. Jalen Hyatt, touchdown.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
He lets it rip, and Mingo's behind the defense. Goodbye, Jonathan Mingo. Touchdown, Rebels. 71 yards.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
We love fullbacks, and we rarely see fullbacks show up on depth charts anywhere around the country. Play action. Nifty handwork that time by Stanley. Looking for his tight end. Laporta grabs a ditch dive. Sam Laporta tripped up short of midfield, and big number 84 rumbles for a first down.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Levis over the middle, wide open ground. Angling across the 40. It's a foot race to the end zone. Barry Brown. Touchdown, Kentucky.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Rattler with time. Underthrown and intercepted by the Wildcats. Julius Brents, the Iowa transfer.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Craig is stuck in that I-35 traffic. He'll be here momentarily. Paul Catalina is here with me. I'm David Smoak. This is 365 Sports with in the studio behind us. And without them, we're not on the air and probably useless. Jack McKenzie, Garrett Ross, and also Emery Winter. Tonight, 10:30, Sports Tonight on the CW. We do that every weeknight. And I run into more and more people around the Waco area, at least, to tell me about it. Saw somebody, what was it, today at the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame meeting that we have. The class will be inducted sometime that first weekend, May the 6th, at the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. Paul Catalina, Baylor, is that time. The transfer portal's open. Utah State, you could call kind of an edge rusher. He'll play the jack position for Baylor. Byron Vaughns, who once was committed, was at Texas. He's been at Utah State, put up big numbers, good numbers. And Baylor gets somebody that might help them have at least put some pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, this is a pretty important spot for them. They didn't get pressure on the quarterback last year. And look, the two best years that Baylor's had recently and maybe ever, 2019 and 2021, what was common about those years? The quarterbacks were on their back a lot, right?
Yep.
And so last year they weren't really getting back there that much, which was kind of a surprise given all of the experience they had coming back on the defensive line. So getting a guy like Byron Vaughns who can get back there, has got some quick twitch off the edge, is going to be big for them as they try to reestablish themselves in the Big 12 race this year after, a very mediocre season last year. Not the only position they need to fill. They probably need another edge rusher. They definitely need to address the secondary. I mean, that's chief among them. And that really outside of quarterback and running back and probably tight end, there's probably not anything that they would grab that wouldn't say like, okay, yeah, they could need some help there because this is a team in flux. I don't
think there's a position on the team that is a lock.
No.
I think they could, if anyone would be an upgrade or add depth or be right there in the mix, I would think there's not a position in which you would not look at somebody who wanted to be a part of it incoming. Garrett, I'm about to send you a note if you don't mind. It's another story that's not a breaking story, but an interesting story in itself. So let's see. That's Byron Vaughns from Utah State headed to Baylor. Ben Bryant, the quarterback at Cincinnati, makes the announcement. He has entered the transfer portal. There is Emory Jones, who apparently either won the job. Evan Prater, of course, a part of that mix. And Cincinnati, Ben Bryant has entered the transfer portal. And I think even said there's a chance he might still come back. Well, of course, if there's nothing out there that's better or grass is greener on the other side, he probably would come back. Cincinnati coming into the Big 12, of course, this year.
Well, I don't think this is good news for Cincinnati that Ben Bryant is leaving, because unless Evan Prater wins that job and he hasn't really been in part of this mix, that means Emory Jones is there. And being as respectful as I can to Emory Jones' athletic talent, if this was not anything that had to do with football, he's a really good athlete, but he is an adventure at quarterback, and this would be his third school. And, I think the proof's in the pudding about his ability to win big at the Power 5 level. He didn't do it at Florida. He didn't do it at Arizona State, and now he's at Cincinnati. So I would be a little bit nervous if I was a Cincinnati fan, and Emory Jones is the guy who's going to line up in Scott Satterfield's first year there for the Bearcats.
All right, basketball news. Max Asmus, he's, of course, one of the best player on Oral Roberts' basketball team. This is last night. He put this up yesterday evening. He was in Austin. And then I clicked on the link. I'm always interested in seeing some of the responses. And about 20 of the first 22 responses were K-State fans. Of course, that means that, and most of the time, those fans you know your teams. Austin, obviously, he would make a huge difference with what they're losing. And then if Jerome Tang proving what he does with guards and what he did his first year at Kansas State, I'm not sure who else might be in the mix. Really don't care. But, yeah, I do. But he was in Austin last night, a hell of a player for Paul Mills at Oral Roberts, who's now the head coach at Wichita State.
Well, look, the Big 12 for the last year of Texas being in there, was probably most of them hoping that they weren't going to reload to the point that they were last year. They do probably feel like they let one get away from them because of the amount of experience. Like, that's kind of how you win now in college basketball, right? Is you have tons of experience. There's lots of guys that are gone now. I mean, because they finally ran out of eligibility. So Texas and then they had a 5-star prospect, who got in some trouble early in the year leave. They have a lot of spots open. And you can rebuild really quickly. And I think Rodney Terry is going to probably do really well at that. But there are people, when they see Max Asmus, probably the best overall pure scorer that was in the transfer portal, milling around down there in Austin, get a little nervous about what Texas could do to build on last year. And look, the top 3 teams in the Big 12 all need serious reloads. Kansas needs a reload. They've already got a transfer, and they look like they're the favorite for Hunter Dickinson, which if they got the kid from Towson yesterday who's a really good scorer at a guard. If they get Hunter Dickinson, who is probably better than some of the bigs that Bill Self has had over the years and had a lot of success with, that's going to be really daunting. Baylor already got a transfer, probably going to get some more. So those 3 teams very much in flux right now. And then you throw Kansas State in the mix and what's going to go on there. Max Asmus could be kind of a swing vote for how the Big 12 goes.
Maybe a swing vote for who will compete for the Big 12 title. He's that good. He's really that good. And whether it's Kansas State, whether it's Texas, whoever it might be. I didn't look at the other. I'm sure the offers were like 50 schools, but he was in Austin. And the Kansas State fans immediately, and you see that with fan bases when somebody announces his top 5, or in this case, sometimes it doesn't quite register with me when somebody announces like their top 20. Like 20 logos, and then it gets to 15. And I listen, I might have been the biggest attention whore ever if I would have had ever any offers at all and there was social media, and if I was ever an athlete good enough to have, I don't know. But, man, that does look like that, doesn't it?
No, yeah. Although I will tell, I just know for me personally, if I would have said, hey, Dad, look at this graphic of 20 schools they want me, he'd be like, are you really going to go visit Indiana.
Yeah.
You don't want to go there. It's cold. I know you. Take them off. And then he would have whittled it down to probably about 7. And I also know this, that like any letter that came with a Longhorn on it would have not made it to me. He would have got intercepted and ripped up.
No. He would have ripped it up?
I guess when I was in recruitable in high school, it would have been John Makovic. And, of course, nobody recruited me at all. But had the phone rang and it said, this is John Makovic at the University of Texas, my dad would have been like, this is Kelly's pool room, 8-ball speaking.
Yeah, you got the wrong number.
He wouldn't let him know.
I got a question on, it was a direct message, I believe it was, direct message on Twitter from CFB Plus on Twitter. I have a question about realignment and I want your thoughts and opinions. I know the main focus recently has been on Colorado and Arizona with the potential to join the Big 12. But if the Big 12 were to call up Oregon State and Washington State and offer them an invitation, do you think they would accept it without hesitation, or do you think they would have to figure things out, think about a potential move, or would they just reject it?
I think they would. I think anybody would have to think about anything called up and offered, but I don't think that. I mean, like when you talk about the reality of who they're going to call first, Oregon State to me just wouldn't be first. I don't think that they would be. Actually, you think that the way that their schools are built, they're not unlike like Iowa State or Kansas State in the kind of schools that they are. So they do kind of fit into the Big 12 culturally. So, yeah, I think that they would consider it, but I do think that right now the Pac-12 schools are all in it until there's nothing to be in.
Well, they're all in it until they see whatever the overall Pac-12 media deal will be, and anyone who leaves before then would just have to – that just would be a bad sign. They're all in it until – they see what the details, the numbers, crunch them, and then they can make their decision. And we expect everyone will still somehow, it'll work itself out and they'll all be together. But just a hypothetical question from CFB on Oregon State and Washington State. There's a lot of banter back and forth, a lot. And CFB's on our chat room. You're welcome for discussing your question. Thank you for sending it to us. There's so much discussion. Our Sikkim365.com message board in the premium section, there are numerous realignment threads. They try to keep them in one, and then you'll see one realignment thread 420, and it might be some new updated information. And there's, guys, I've said before, there are people, not just Sam Bradshaw and Brian Etheridge, but others, AP, Lion Bear, among a couple of others that are just in-tuned and entrenched in all of the expansion realignment stories. Craig Smoak is here. There's a wide shot, Gary. Craig Smoak has entered the building, and he now joins us here on 365 Sports.
How y'all doing?
A little backed up?
Yeah, and had somebody brake check me and nearly send me into a bad wreck. So it took me a little while to get here. So thanks to the crappy drivers out there. But, yeah, somebody got in front of me and then brake checked me out of nowhere, and it was not good.
Let's do this. It's kind of a quiet day in a lot of ways. Craig, I'm glad you're okay. Thank God.
I am too. I was here. I was making my way on good time, and that was unfortunate. And yeah, there was some traffic back up as well. But that was kind of a weird deal. So my heart's still fluttering a little bit, but I'm here and ready to talk about whatever until I have to go to practice here in a few minutes.
Practice the last day of Baylor spring football practice. Their game is on Saturday, just around noon at McLean Stadium. So, B on the chat room, Dennis Dodge said yesterday on the Cover 3 podcast that San Diego State, UNLV are back plans for the Big 12. I saw that. I read that. That would have to be, would that be plan 2 or 3, if at all? There were a few people that said, hey, wait a minute. I understand what maybe UNLV doesn't bring to the table or what people may think of UNLV, whatever, but you know what? Isn't that where everybody's going? Do you see the A's story today? They bought land near the Strip. They're moving. We mentioned them earlier in the week. They're moving to Las Vegas. Would that be an opportunity? I'm not saying front and center, but would they at least be someone that you have to at least discuss because of what can happen in their city rather than whatever they bring to the table? I don't know.
I think you have to kind of let that happen. I mean, UNLV. Talking to some of our friends that are in radio in Vegas, I asked them about that, and they're like the people who cover them, kind of have this. They're kind of like Memphis a little bit. If they can ever figure out what they do well and do the things well all right in a row, then yes. Then they, like Memphis, should probably be in a power conference. But UNLV, the city around them, they need to get on that. They need to ride that wave for sure because it's exploding around them. And by the way, the A's moving there is like one of the worst kept secrets in the world. Like even Vegas, everything that happens here stays here.
Was it a better secret than Texas OU and the SEC and USC?
Yeah, just worse. And a lot of times when big owners throw out we'll move to this city, it's just to get more out of that. Like the city of Vegas is here's the thing. If you see the picture of the land, they've already cleaned it out. Like they could start construction tomorrow.
Yeah. Here's my question: is how many people in Vegas care about college sports? Because there is a difference. Mm-hmm. If it's NIL era college sports, then maybe that gives UNLV more of a boost. But again, who's paying for it? It's one thing when it's a national team. It's the A's. Okay, you don't have to be from Oakland to root for them. You don't have to be from Las Vegas to root for UNLV, but I'd say probably most people are. And, some of that pull is from, in the college ranks, at least attendance-wise, is a little bit more personal than it is for professional followers. So do they have the fan base that shows up? I'd say this, the biggest thing about UNLV to me, what's the rush as far as if you're the Pac-12, I can understand you looking at it a little deeper, but I'll let the academic people tell me what that's supposed to, mean for them, as far as is the door closed on them because of academics, even though we know that that's hooey, that makes up as much as some people portray it to make up. But regardless, if you're the Pac-12, you're not signing a long-term TV deal no matter what you're eventually signing, which still unsigned, right? And the Big 12, their deal's for just a few years? So they don't need Las Vegas this time around. Maybe the next time around, and that next time around is not that far down the road. So you do have to be, crossing your T's and dotting your I's, I think, if you're anybody looking at the Las Vegas market and looking at UNLV. But I don't think the Big 12, with all the balls in the air that they have right now, I don't think they're the ones that are sitting there needing to poach that right away. Does that make sense?
No, yeah, I think what might,
maybe next time,
is that your mark is probably saying, listen, we're here and you have a little time here and we understand what you're waiting on if this is the discussion. But as far as the others, it might just be maybe, I don't know, it's just you always keep the balls juggling in the air. But we know which ones are the ones that will be important for the Pac-12 and then also could be a part of the new and more expanded Big 12 if that ever happens. Well, let's get back to road rage. I'm bad. I'm happy you're okay.
It was not good.
What?
It wasn't good. It was not a good situation. I'm glad my car's okay. I'm glad that everything's okay. I don't want to be not dramatic and really talk about it too much, but yeah, it was a weird deal. If you saw a car flying back and forth on 35 about to slam into the wall, that was me. That was me because somebody just flew in front of me and brake checked me in the left lane. I couldn't do anything but brake, and next thing I know, my car's out of control. So if you're somebody that was driving about 30 minutes ago and saw any kind of a vehicle, I don't want to get too deep on the details, but if you saw one going and trying to avoid a wall on the left or the right, that was me. And it was weird is it went back and forth 3 or 4 times. So I had long enough to kind of sit in it for a second, which was really strange. It's not one of those bang, bang, and you're like, oh my gosh, what just happened? It was one of those about the third time I'm weaving, I'm like, am I going to hit the side rail or am I going to avoid it again? And then it did it another time. And what a gutless piece of trash that did that. And they scurried off in a hurry like gutless pieces of trash do.
I would have found him. You know me. I know it was probably backed up, but you know me. I would have found him. I couldn't. Paul, could I have let that go?
No, I would have actually asked you to pull over and let me out.
I'm not going to elaborate much, but it was not good. I'm fine. Car's fine. But yeah, people are so angry on the roads. I'm not going to preach, but golly, folks, let's have some wits about us. Just to try to cause wrecks is another level of insane that we don't really need right now. But, yeah, everything's good, and we're here to talk about sports.
All right, so story out of Memphis. I had this sent to me on the direct message, my Twitter feed, @DavidSmoak. Memphis gets State General Assembly approval for $350 million in stadiums initiative. Their Memphis mayor, Jim Strickland, one step closer to being answered the big ask. On Thursday, the Tennessee Senate approved their version of Governor Lee's $55.6 million budget, including $350 million to fund major renovation projects at Simmons Bank, that's Liberty Bowl, Simmons Bank, Liberty Stadium, FedEx Forum, and also AutoZone Park, as well as construction of a proposed soccer stadium on the site of Mid-South Coliseum. So Memphis putting some money, it looks like, into their facilities. Memphis was a big discussion point for us back in the fall of 2021 when the Big 12 was trying to figure out what they would do to react to Texas and OU. We discussed it with them quite a bit. The sportscasters we had on from Memphis all said that Memphis was ready to go. They did have an outgoing president. The word I got back then, and I think we were pretty much right there, hammer to the nail every time, was that there might have even been paperwork sitting on a couple of different schools' desks, like, we're ready. I mean, are you all in or not? But I got to believe the Memphis sportscasters know what they're talking about. But maybe this is, they had the door closed, period. And who knows if that ever opens up again. I like Memphis. I know a lot of people don't. I think most people go, no, we don't need Memphis. We don't need UNLV. We don't need this or that. They don't beat Boise. I'm kind of always for the underdog. But I think Memphis has some opportunities there, like Vegas does, but I'm not saying that's for the Big 12 anytime soon.
Yeah, I do think that once you upgrade that stadium, which was very, very old and dilapidated, and move on, I think that's good. They've got a really cool downtown. Memphis is a very kind of industrial city for the most part. FedEx is there, DHL, like they've got a lot of big industry there. It's not as much of a, if you just compare it to some of the towns like in the SEC around it, it's a little bit different. But I do think that it's a city that can support big time college athletics for sure, and they'd have some big, money donors in there eventually, especially when things start getting exciting. So I do think that long-term potential, they could hang with the big boys if the money continues to be right, and they just, timing was just a little bit off for them as the last time.
So that gets you the Tennessee market, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that how we're doing this? SMU's the Texas market. Then UNLV will be the Nevada market, right? That's how it works. Transitive property.
Memphis would Memphis. We're just talking here. Memphis might be more Birmingham, right? In that area, like that southern part of.
Well, it's Tennessee.
No, I know it's the state of Tennessee. I understand that, but it is really it's right. Just north of the Mississippi border.
If you're going to say SMU adds Texas as homes, then you're adding Tennessee as homes. And if we're just going to be that generic about it, then that seems like a good idea. Just like, what are you going to balloon to, though?
Yeah, and
I mean, how many teams are we going for? Are we going for 18? Are we going for 20? Is that what's needed? Like, is that what the Big 12 needs to do in the future? I don't know. That's a question that's better answered by Brett Yormark, I would think, because what are the others going to do? What are you setting up for? If there are these things like, the ACC thing still kind of, the embers are burning, even though there's not really anything close to, it appears, happening at the moment. But, there is this whole thing of if you've got some empty bus seats that are pretty valuable, are you just going to start welcoming on people right now? Or are you trying to reserve those to see like if there's not some higher prices you can raise for those bus seats? And if there's people on shaky ground, then there's not a need to move on a Memphis or on a UNLV necessarily, unless there's just something about them that we're missing, or they are such a undiscovered gold mine that you have to make that move, which that's a Brett Yormark decision.
Okay, now, and that's again, right now we know who they're locked in on. Like if you're up in the sky with the fighter pilots, right?
Okay. So also ask yourself this: is Memphis versus Iowa State something that someone at ESPN is going to say great? Is UNLV versus West Virginia something that they're going to be like, oh, good, that will counter Notre Dame versus Ohio State on NBC tonight?
Utah against Brigham Young would be something that caught their attention.
So that's where it is. So like that's one of the things that you have to think about when you throw in these schools is who's in your league and who can help you. Because if it was Utah versus BYU, boom. If it's BYU versus Colorado in the Big 12, then you've got something you're talking about here right now. I think with those other schools that are, still trying to grow into something, you have to let them get there before the networks are going to be excited about
Andre Schmidt, Syracuse kicker. You go, why? Well, you know what? We've had some unique sleeper, and then some guys like John Gaines II from UCLA, who's most likely is a good chance he goes in on Fridays at the draft. We've had some great guests, thanks to Lauren Birchfield and also with Neil Stratton. Neil helps run some of the college all-star games, and she works for him, and they have been able to get us some new names and players, and you never know the stories. And Andre Schmidt from Syracuse, a kicker, who won the Luke Rosa Award as a freshman. We'll hear his story. Also today, Terry Mohajir, the AD at UCF, is going to join us at 4. Mickey Spagnola on the Cowboys a week out from the draft. We'll check in with Oklahoma with Josh McCuistion. Blake Blackmar, former Baylor offensive lineman, on the weekend cookout and competition with also the Baylor football letter winners and more, and just his thoughts about Baylor football. This is 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans went by there yesterday after, it was Tuesday, after playing a round of golf and walked inside their 48-foot walk-in humidor. Cheyenne was there, Ashley was there, and I said, okay, this is what I want. I want some Churchill length cigars. That's the longer length cigars. That's what I want, and she was able to pick out 2 of these, 2 Ashton, Macanudo, Oliva, and whatever else. And also... just did a great job. They knew what I wanted. That's what I wanted. They got it for me. Bought the cigars, have them in the humidor, ready to play the next round of golf, which for me might be sometime on Saturday morning. They have CBD products, Vita Dreams. If you struggle at night to fall asleep, Vita Dreams will help you out to put you in a position where you just all of a sudden, man, all the stuff scattered in your head. Don't worry about it. It's going to go away. It's Vita Dreams. It's cigars, a 48-foot walk-in humidor. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco. We're now joined by Syracuse kicker Andre Schmidt. He joins us on 365 Sports. And Andre with Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, and I'm David Smoak. Andre, thanks for your time. Obviously, the kicker position is something that a lot don't get drafted, but you have a tremendous resume. What have you been told are the expectations for you this, not this weekend, but next?
Well, first of all, hi guys. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I mean, like you said, the kicker position is kind of tough. You don't know if you're going to get drafted or not, but it's kind of hard not to listen to some of the noise. But late round pick to potentially undrafted free agent, anything's a possibility. But obviously, any opportunity I get is going to be I'm going to be grateful for.
So what are everybody knows what it's like to be a quarterback. You hear the stories about them going on visits and that. What is it like for a kicker during this time?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit more quiet. I had to work out with the Bears, and that was pretty cool just because I'm a hometown kid from the Chicago area. And it was cool going back there. I grew up watching the Bears as a little kid, so being able to work out their facility and tour and everything was a pretty cool experience.
Can you elaborate a bit more on what that's like for a prospect, the tour and the workout, and can you kind of take us through what that day's like?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty surreal. Obviously, your whole college career, you kind of work for this moment, the draft, and to hopefully be able to play on an NFL team and just to be in the position of being at the facility, in the locker room, getting to work out on the field that these guys work out on and play on is a pretty cool experience.
Did you play soccer in high school?
Yeah, I grew up playing soccer from as little as I can remember. And I only made the switch to my senior year of high school.
Did somebody discover you? Did a coach approach you? Did you just give it a shot? How did that go down?
Yeah, so everybody kind of knew that I had the strongest leg on the team when I played soccer. And a couple football coaches asked the soccer players, hey, who has the strongest leg? And I was kind of nominated to be that guy. So I kicked the ball around a couple times, and my high school coach noticed. I decided to make the switch my senior year, and the rest is kind of history.
So, Andre, one of the big things that you have to do as a kicker is shut everything out. You've been in the ACC. You've played in a ton of big games. Syracuse had a really good year this past year. So you've been in those key moments. How do you train yourself to shut all that noise out?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the kicker position is mental. I mean, I've heard other interviews of guys like Justin Tucker say, 90% of it's mental and the other 10% is mental too. So obviously being mentally tough is a huge part of it, and just blocking out the noise and just kind of thinking about, there's a lot going on. So thinking about the things that are going to help the ball go through the uprights is really all that matters. I mean, all your other emotions, whether you're scared or nervous or excited in the moment, you kind of have to put those aside and just think about what's going to help make the ball go through the uprights.
How long did it take you to learn to be able to do that? Was that something natural, just blocking it out, or is there like a technique for that? Are you taught a way to block that out? How does that work?
I think it's just kind of gifted. I think that's what separates the good kickers from the great kickers is what's between the years. So, I mean, I guess I was just born with it because it kind of came naturally to me ever since I started playing football.
So you've visited, you said the Bears. How many other NFL franchises have brought you in?
No other franchise brought me in, but a couple franchises came to my pro day up at Syracuse. I spoke with the Rams. I spoke with the Raiders. There were several other teams I spoke to along the process. I was lucky enough to have the Atlanta Falcons staff coach me at the East-West Shrine game, so that was definitely a cool experience there. And
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say it was a cool experience, and I'm grateful for that.
Look, we're in Texas, and the most popular team here needs a kicker. That would be the Cowboys. Have they talked to you?
Right. My agents talked to them.
Okay.
Yeah, keep that number on in his contacts list. They do need after last year. So I read a story that early on your freshman year, I don't know what game it was, first, second, or third game. It was in September, I believe, and you kicked a 50-yard field goal, or you were lining up for a 50-yard field goal, and I think you made it. And did you say you almost basically blacked out, that you don't remember much?
Yeah, I mean, certain kicks, it'll do that to you in a game. I mean, most notably game winners. And obviously game winners don't feel the same as just an extra point. And the same kind of deal with 50-yarders and deep kicks. It's kind of, you go into almost like a trance. And like I said before, where you kind of just think about those swing thoughts, that the ball your foot almost just intercepts where the ball is on the hold. So, yeah, it's kind of just blacking out and just doing your swing thoughts and what you know how to do.
Okay, have you ever played baseball or golf?
Yeah, I'm a big golfer. When I heard you guys talking about it a little bit.
Yeah, I try to play it. You know what the difference is between hitting an iron and kind of not quite great. It's kind of thin or whatever. But there are times you hit an iron flush. It's like you don't even feel the ball hit your club. Is it that way as well with a kick?
Yeah, it's the same exact way. I mean, kind of how you can hit a golf shot off the toe, you can do the same thing quite literally off your toe. And obviously it's going to be not as great of a hit as if you hit it on the sweet spot. But, yeah, I think golfing and kicking is super, super similar. Just like with the swing and the swing thought, kind of same thing. And yeah, I try to use my golf game to help out my kicking game, honestly.
So you went to Vernon Hills High School in Illinois. You got a walk-on opportunity at Syracuse. Was there an opportunity elsewhere as a scholarship? Because we understand how the kicking game goes. Very few are offered scholarships out of high school. What was that experience like?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of crazy. I had no other scholarship offer. I had no scholarship offers in general. I was originally committed to Louisville, but then a guy who recruited me there ended up going to Syracuse. And he was kind of the only guy that recognized my talents early on when I was in high school. So I trusted him. I ended up going where he went. And, yeah.
So what's it like going from playing soccer your whole life, where you're on the field and you never stop moving, to being a kicker where you have to sit and wait for your shot?
Yeah, it's quite different, honestly. Whenever I played soccer, like how you said, you're out there the whole game. And, if you mess up, so what? You can still have a goal too. You have time to make it up. With being a kicker, you don't have many opportunities to mess up. So every opportunity you have to make the most of, and kind of just adds that little bit of pressure to that position.
You walked on. So let's just look ahead to next week. It starts a week from today, the draft. And hopefully your number is called, and hopefully somebody does invest a draft pick in you. But because you learned from walk-on to scholarship at Syracuse. Will that help perhaps whatever transition you might have in the NFL?
Of course, I think so. And I've thought about that too. I've always kind of had a chip on my shoulder ever since I was in high school. I came in kind of really underrated. I was the backup going to my second season training camp. I ended up winning the job there. So any opportunity I get in the NFL is going to be kind of taken the same way, whether it's drafted or undrafted free agent. I'm going to go in. I know it's going to be a competition, and I'll just do what I did in college.
Saw a video of you signing autographs, and some were jerseys that young kids had in the stands. They wanted you to sign the jerseys. What is that like for people to want your autograph?
Yeah, I mean, it means so much to me. Syracuse has been so good to me. Spent 6 years here, and the university and the fans have been nothing but supportive and great fans. I mean, in general. So, I give it up to them, and I wouldn't be here without them as well.
Where are you now?
I'm in Syracuse, so I'm still training up here.
Are you graduated, or you still have the rest of the semester? How's that going?
Yeah, I graduated. So I got my undergrad, and then I just finished my master's right before this past season.
Your undergrad in psychology. I would think that's a great degree to have as a kicker.
Yeah, I figured I might as well have something that can correlate to my kicking game.
All right. Now, where will you be on draft day? Will you be at the university, or will you be somewhere else?
No, I'll be back home with my family.
Okay. Enjoy that. Give us some idea about something about you, Andre Schmidt, that perhaps only your inner circle knows, that nobody else would know about. Something that's unique, a hobby, a passion, something.
Oh, wow. I love guitar. I love playing guitar and golf. I think people don't really know that much about me. I don't like playing guitar in front of many people. It's kind of more just to myself, but it's definitely something that not everybody knows about me.
Is that something that kind of helps you relax, decompress a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing, that and golf. Like I said,
it
correlates to the kicking game. I mean, those two are probably my favorite things to do, when I have some time off.
Okay, so you have a 440-yard par 4. There's a bunker about 250 yards on the left-hand side of the fairway, and there's a creek running alongside of the green on the 440-yard par 4. Tell me what you hit, and tell me how you handle that hole.
Okay, so I think I'm going to hit driver off the tee. Obviously, we'll probably drive it, let's say 260, and then what do we have in?
Do you have 180 in?
Yeah, so 180 in. We got a creek running up right in front of the green, correct?
Right, it kind of off to a little pond that runs a creek around the right side of the green, around the back.
Okay, around the back. So maybe play like a 6-iron.
Damn.
Get it close, and if it doesn't have enough clubs, then maybe chip on, get it up and down for par. But obviously,
yeah,
like to get it on the green and then make the birdie putt.
Maybe make the birdie putt, 2-putt for a par. You got to hit a cut off the tee box though with that bunker on the left hand side and just draw it around the right side, right?
Yeah, the drive might be a little bit questionable, but that's the club it's the club I'm working on right now.
All right. Hey, Andre, great to have you on. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Love your personality. Good luck next week wherever you are, wherever you land. Hopefully you get a call no matter what, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's Andre Schmidt, kicker from Syracuse. He won the Lou Groza Award for the best kicker in America as a freshman. I think they went through some coaching staff changes. Dino Babers, who once was on the staff at Baylor, is the head coach at Syracuse. He was phenomenal. His statistics at Syracuse was tremendous. He kicked 5 field goals in a game when they beat Wake Forest in his career 22-20. Masters in instructional design, development, and evaluation. Walk on to where he is now, possibly kicking in the NFL.
Look, I wasn't trying to hide too much. The Cowboys need a kicker bad, and
His agent knows that.
A Lou Groza Award winner is going to make a lot of people feel better because they're going to have to get one out of the draft weekend. There's not like they've got somebody on the roster right now, but
Yeah, no, they kickers. I mean, it's weird because who was it that was the Nebraska kicker they had? It was so good. Who was the kicker that went south on them in the late in the year?
Oh,
couldn't kick anything.
Yeah, I've
tried to forget
dramatically
that.
blocked him out. But because he left and came back. But no, I do think it is weird. I think that fundamentally coaches need to change their attitude towards kicking and starting it at a younger level. We've done a ton of, between the three of us in this room, thousands of high school football games. In those thousands of high school football games, I've seen maybe 4 good kickers.
I've seen more than that.
I mean, but kickers that I think can really, grow and do something at the next level. And the guys that aren't, it's not necessarily their fault. It's that you have these coaches that just don't care enough about it.
Some of them don't believe in special teams. I am absolutely all in on special teams. I absolutely. If you're average, it'll make you good. If you're good, it can make you really good. If you're bad and you have bad special teams or good special teams, you might be able to even get to 500 or so. I'm a huge believer in all of the levels of special teams, not just field goal kickers, but also coverage and return game too. When we come back, 365 Sports, Craig's going to be leaving for Baylor football practice, their last media session before their game on Saturday afternoon around 12 at McLean Stadium. And then, of course, a media session tonight, and there'll be one following the game. This is 365 Sports.
Your springtime experience begins during the Jeep Celebration event this month at Allen Samuels in Waco. Say big and get a 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited with total values up to $5,500 on both 2 and 3 row options. Or if that isn't enough, get a 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport with up to $5,000 in total values. Plus, first responders get an extra $500. If we don't have exactly what you want, we can help you build the new custom Jeep of your dreams at Allen Samuels in Waco.
The future's bright, the time is now. College is what you make it. It's a late night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Aaron Duvall, owner, Texas Beef House. Aaron, it's premium grade East Texas beef, and you're located just outside of Tyler. No hormones, no antibiotics, no steroids, the kind of beef that people want. And then also your label is what catches people's attention as well.
Yes, we have a all-natural, pasture-raised Wagyu beef. It's a USDA label. That means our cattle never spend any time in the feed yard. They go straight from the pasture to the day of harvest, and we oversee the whole process from the beginning of the genetic choices when we make these matings to the time the calves are born, to the feed choices, all the way through when the animals are harvested. So we oversee the whole thing as a family, and we just believe, life's too short to eat average beef. So we offer people a chance to step up their game and try Wagyu beef at TexasBeefHouse.com.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
So, this is a hot topic. It is a polarizing topic. We have seen this more and more of late. Transgender athletes competing against women. What's your take on it, Paul?
I think that it's very nuanced, and I don't think that most of us understand the nuances of it.
What do you mean?
Okay, there's going to be a lot of people on the chat room that think that or anywhere, that think there's a bunch of people who are going to do this just to be good at sports. And I don't really think that's the case. I think that is... I think that would be an extreme minority, because the steps that you have to take to do this, to change your gender, are very exhaustive, and then sports are very fleeting. So to change who you fundamentally are for the rest of your life so that you can win a track meet would seem to be a kind of a foolish decision. And most of the time, if that was the reasoning, you wouldn't pass the psychological barriers and counseling needed to get it in most places. So I don't think that's the real issue. I do think, though, that on the other side of that, like, there needs to be a fundamental discussion about, like, yes, okay, you were male, now you are female, but that doesn't change the fact that you are still biologically born one way, and you have a distinct advantage over many of the people you'll be competing against. So let's talk about it reasonably. That's where I think the nuance goes.
In this country?
Yeah, but I mean, that's what we have to do, and that's the problem, is that we've got two sides of it who don't want to do that.
Republican House passed it. It won't get through the Senate. It's a Democratic-led Senate, and Joe Biden, White House has already pretty much said that they would veto it. Craig?
I mean, I think Paul said it best. I think this is a topic that's not really a setting for sports radio, quite frankly, because like Paul said, it's a lot more nuanced, and people hear it and they already just go black and white.
Yeah.
And I don't feel the need to be divisive and have a conversation that's just very generic. And like Paul said, it's a nuanced conversation, but the basic point is, like, yeah, do I think that like a man should be competing against a woman? No. Do I think that guys are just like, I'm going to go run track and pretend I'm a woman? No, I don't think that they're doing that necessarily either, but that's how it's portrayed. And I don't think that that's fair to that side or any side, really. So I think you have the loud crowd over here that makes it sound like this is like some takeover that's been planned, and it's like all these guys are going to go take over all the women's spots, and it's all nefarious. And then you got the other side that's, completely like, there's no differences. And it's like, no, there is. There are absolutely differences. And we hear those two sides, and then everybody else in the middle that knows it's a little bit more complicated than that, we all get drowned out, and I don't care to have that conversation, because that's kind of how it goes.
We're not going to get into an argument over it. I was just curious because, again, the Republican House passed a bill. The Senate will reject it, and Joe Biden would have vetoed it anyway. But I'm of the opinion that I'm not thinking about the transgender of whether they should compete or not. I do think that they should have almost their own category. As far as you have a men's Olympics, you have the women's Olympic team. Maybe you have maybe there's a point where you have a transgender Olympic team too, and you compete against each other. My problem with it is the fact that someone loses if there's a transgender athlete in their sport that can win. Could knock them out of the Olympics, could knock them out of winning a state championship, that's my point. I'm a little more old school on this, and I know that there's going to be some people that think I'm a racist or bigot or whatever.
No, but see, I think that what the point you're trying to make is, you're not trying to tell people what to do with their life and what they're doing. It's just, there needs to be more clarity for that to, okay, so if you do that and then someone does, like you do have someone that knocks, like if it is someone who can compete at that high level, which not everyone could, even regardless of whatever happens, I think that's where the clarity needs to come from. The one side of it is like, okay, so how does this really affect, and what is all the data say? And right now, part of the problem is we don't have a lot of data on it because most of these issues when it comes to transgender athletes are one athlete in one part of the country over here. So you're talking about where you need a sample size of thousands upon thousands of people to get really good numbers and figure it out. We don't have it. It's very, very small sample size, so we don't really know. I mean, there's so much we don't know about it. That's, I think, the really confusing part of the issue for most people is because there's not, like, people, like, okay, the Leah Thomas situation, that's not going on everywhere. That was just happening at Penn. It's not happening in a ton of other places, so you can judge Leah Thomas, but there might be 50 other situations that didn't affect anybody at all except that one person who was running in a track meet and coming in 30th.
There are people who want to protect Leah Thomas, and then also, what about the people who don't get the gold medal or who don't make the swim team or who don't qualify for the Olympic Games? Because isn't that what Title IX was about, is having equal opportunities to compete? And so I wonder how this is going to end up. The responses on the chat room, I haven't looked yet. Just curious because that bill was passed. It won't go anywhere. All right. Now, Craig, we did not bring it up when you were here yet. We brought it up before you were here. Byron Vaughns from Utah State, an edge rush type player, going to play the jack position. I've looked at some video of him. I'm not an X's and O's breakdown guy, but your thoughts? It's a nice pickup for a guy that once was at the University of Texas.
Yeah, I haven't looked at his highlights or anything like that either, and I'm not a film breakdown guy. That's others on the site, but I remember him from his recruitment to Texas, and seems like a pretty good player. I haven't dove into, I was a bit busy last night, I haven't dove into, where he's projected and how he fits and all of that, but they did need edge rush help, and he can apparently provide that. So that's, an area of need. You wonder how many transfers are going to be the limit here. They've got, 11 now, I believe they brought in, and could very well have 12 or 13 when all is said and done, depending on if they can go find another corner, because it seems like they're probably going to need that. And maybe some other things as well. We'll see more, I guess, after Dave Aranda talks on Saturday about what that could be or where they feel like they fit. But, they clearly still see some deficiencies, and they're trying to address those. And, makes me wonder just how much of that was need and how much of that was just they see what they can, how much of that they had to have a guy and how much of they just saw Byron Vaughns and they're like, man, he could really do something for us. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Because I think there's probably a little bit of both there. He was a pretty well thought of player coming out of high school, so we'll see what he can do. But I think that athletically he certainly fits the bill, and coming off the edge, they could certainly use some help there too.
There's no position, not even with what they have at quarterback, and I mentioned this earlier, tell me if you agree or not, where there's a position that if you have somebody that's talented and can play at a pretty high level, you would not look at him to bring him in. And I know the numbers, the crunching of the roster and all that has a lot to do with it too. Is there a position Baylor has that is locked in? They're fine. They don't need any transfers.
Yeah, I don't think they need a running back. I don't think that they need
tight end.
Tight end. I don't think they need a tight end.
Pretty good chunk of them. They're all.
They don't need a quarterback. They don't. So, I'd say those three. Wide receiver, I don't know that they need a guy unless it was like here's the thing. Are you talking about they need a guy or do they need a stud?
No, if it's a stud, you bring him in no matter what position.
Do they need a guy at wide receiver? No. Do they need a guy at tight end? No. If there was a stud at wide receiver, would you try and go get him? Yeah, I could see where they would possibly do that. But, I would say tight end, running back, and
tight end, a running back has already had a transfer in, right, with Dominic Richardson.
Yeah.
So they've taken care of that, so that's a good
But
way
I could see them if there's like a stud tackle that appeared in the portal. I don't think they wouldn't not look at that guy. Defensive line, I could see them doing that. Linebacker, I could see them doing that. Secondary, I believe they'll do that, at least at corner. So, so quarterback, running back, tight ends, those would be the three that I feel probably the best about that you wouldn't be sniffing around too much.
Terry Mohajir, the director of athletics at UCF, we mentioned yesterday their season tickets were almost all but sold out at 415. It's probably down even more so. We'll have him on to discuss UCF as they are closer and closer to being the official day of being a part of the Big 12 and what that's meant to the athletic department and ticket sales too. He'll join us today at just about 4 o'clock. Let's see. There was one more story. I mentioned Max Asmus. We mentioned the A's. And that's it. It's really kind of this may be one of the more quiet days I've ever seen when it comes to something that was popping. Of course, there's the NBA playoffs, and that's fine. But I did not see much today in the headline segment. We also went over a couple of things, that question from CFB Plus, which we appreciate him as well. Scotty B, the offensive line and defensive line are dependent on scholarship spots on the roster. Yeah, I mean, you don't – you have walk-ons, but – I don't think those two, I don't care how good they might be at either position. I don't think if, like Craig said, if you have somebody that could come in, like if the Wyoming offensive lineman wanted to come to Baylor, would they bring him in?
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, but also it depends on a few factors, like who else are they in on? How many scholarships do they have? What is this person asking for? Is this an NIL deal or is this just a straight-up transfer and then they get some NIL along the way? I mean, those are all the things because you could need an offensive lineman. You could want the former four-star offensive lineman, but are you desperate enough to go get in the bidding war with Florida and USC and Texas Tech? I mean, is it worth that to you? Do you need it that bad? And so it's a little bit more complex than just like, yeah, let's go get this guy or let's go get that guy. It matters the nuance of it. How good is this player? Is it a must-have? Is it a money thing? And all of those types of things. But, yeah, I mean, if we're just saying, like, you can add a stud defensive lineman, sure, they'd love to do that. They could add a stud offensive lineman, sure, they'd love to do that. But what's the realistic chances of that? That now varies. But what they have to go get, I think that's probably the best question, is a cornerback probably. I'd say that they definitely have to go get a corner and maybe another defensive back. I'm trying to think about safety, kind of where they are. That secondary, that's a question mark, man. That's a real question mark. They do not have a lot of veteran experience and depth there. That's proven. So that's the area I keep going back to for a reason.
All right, Craig's headed to practice at Baylor football. Their game again just after noon at McLean Stadium on Saturday. When we come back, Terry Mohajir, the director of athletics at UCF. And this is 365 Sports. So I was on the message board a couple of 3 nights ago. Jeremy and his story. He has cows. He had a cow kick him in the mouth, broke his jaw. He went to the ER. They did a CAT scan to check him out. Broken upper jaw, teeth all pushed up. It was bad. I've seen pictures of it. Then they sent him to Scott and White and Temple for trauma. Eventually, guess where he ended up to get his dental work taken care of? Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. And Dr. Steve Childress and company, you should see the pictures before and after, or before and now, and it's pretty amazing. Dr. Childress and his staff, he used to work in trauma when he was also a part of the military. You don't think he's probably seen a few bad accidents or issues with soldiers? Yes, he has. So he went there, and my goodness, what a job he did with Jeremy, who I asked, by the way, can I share your story on Twitter? He is looking good, feels good. Everything seems really nice. They got something they've done with his front teeth. There's still more work to be done, but it's done. If you need teeth cleaning, if you need something that's maybe a root canal, if you need a cavity filled and all that, yeah, they'll do that too. But also trauma work is what Dr. Steve Childress specializes in. He can do that too. He is fantastic. So is his staff. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
Dozens of 2023 Buicks are on the lot and priced to move at Richard Carr Buick. A prestigious luxury SUV without the luxury price. Experience the quiet escape and premium drive of a Buick SUV on a test drive today at Richard Carr. Right now, qualified buyers get a 2023 Buick Encore GX at 3.9% for 60 months, plus save $1,000 dealer discount or save $3,500 on a 2023 Buick Enclave Avenir in stock. See dealer for details.
Count on us, a dealer to trust. Richard Carr in Waco, Texas.
Pizza pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. If you haven't been there in quite some time, you're missing out on the improvements for our members. New flooring in the weight room and locker rooms, new paint and mirrors added in the weight room and group exercise room, with more new machines arriving over the next few months. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines on spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Botch, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. There's sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. The amenities are great. 16 tennis courts plus an 1,100-seat stadium court, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Visit our website, wacotennis.com, or visit Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Director of Athletics at UCF, Terry Mohadjer, joins us on 365 Sports. We've been fortunate to have Terry on before, back in the fall of 2021. Of course, all of the changes, UCF, Houston, Cincinnati, Brigham Young, eventually lock in with the Big 12. And here we go with this upcoming football season in the sports calendar, school calendar. Terry, thanks for your time. We appreciate it as well. We had that note yesterday about season tickets, and I think the number was 415. I'm sure it's gone down. And it seems like, me talking to some at UCF, that you're close to a sellout, closer or earlier than normal. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Thanks, David, for inviting me on. I appreciate it. Yes, that's correct. When we sent out that tweet yesterday, it's 415, and I think we're at 99% sold out now. I think we're at 99.5. I think we sold probably 60 or 70 yesterday after I sent out that tweet. So, yeah, we're real excited. And we have sold out a couple times before, but never this early. It's usually in August. So this is really exciting.
How much?
And look, you're in Waco. You're in Waco. You know our Big 12 home opener this year is Baylor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they know that. In fact, they got their spring game this week. I know you guys have had yours as well. How is there still kind of an adrenaline rush? back in the fall of 21, that was huge. And then the schedule comes out. Do you feel that adrenaline rush even now when everything becomes official? I guess, what is it, June the 1st or July the 1st?
July 1st. No, it's real exciting. We're preparing. I think it's really, I know as we get closer, August, and when camp opens up, you're definitely going to feel a little bit more. But now we've got so much to prepare for that it's just like you're just working through the transition, trying to navigate through that. And but no, it's really for the fans, the people that are around it every single day. You're real close to it, but the fans are very excited and just thrilled. And everybody's got their Big 12 logos on everything, and so it's really cool. By the way, a little side note: that the Baylor game this year, a home opener, that will be the 10-year anniversary of the UCF Baylor Fiesta Bowl.
Well, Terry's throwing out grenades here.
Yeah. Well, I know. So that's like a big. That's like, one of the things that people are really excited about is that the Blake Bortles quarterback, and that team coming. I'm not trying to throw shade, please.
No. Let me tell you.
But it has different meaning because it's the 10-year anniversary, and really, honestly, that was. You talk about a lot of things that helped us get into the Big 12. That game will be one of the games that we go back and look in the history and the evolution of UCF as a pivotal time of UCF playing in that New Year's Six bowl game against an unbelievable Baylor program.
Yeah, you guys, and quite frankly, UCF dictated that thing from the beginning. Bortles and company were very, very good. Yeah. Terry Mohadjer, the AD at UCF, with us on 365 Sports.
So, Terry, you mentioned the process of transitioning into a new league. So what is that like now that, a lot of people would think that like you're just, on July 1st, you just, walk into the office and you carry on as normal, but you're Big 12 now, but there's more to it than that, right? What is that process?
We put a new sign indoor that says Big 12. No, it's something we've been preparing for, and we actually are illustrating it on our website, on our microsite called Mission 12. And if you really kind of want to see behind the scenes of what we're trying to do, basically we're basically comparing with the Big 12 operating budgets, personnel, facilities, maintenance of facilities. And then, of course, NIL is the fourth prong now. It was three prongs when we first got started. And so we're going down four parallel tracks that we have to do. We have to catch up. And think about this, guys. This will be interesting. And you may or may not know. And we put this on the Mission 12, one of the deck that we put out there, is out of there's only 5 Power 5 teams that universities started in the 1900s. And we're one of them. Only 5. And so the rest of the teams that we're joining, except for Houston, because they're one of the Power 5 teams, started playing sports in the 1800s. Started their university and started playing sports in the 1800s. So, we got some catch up to do. And, we don't become full share members until fiscal year 26. Obviously, but we're still competing. No one's going to take it easy on us because of that. So it's all about self-generated revenues right now for us in our program. So we have it illustrated and kind of a roadmap of how we're trying to get there. We're trying to get all of our sports into the top half of the Big 12 for funding. Mm-hmm. So again, we're working on operating capital, salaries and all that kind of stuff, and then obviously facilities and maintenance. Right after we were invited in the Big 12, we played SMU, and I came down a little early, and I went to Baylor, and I went to TCU, and just kind of see what the kind of new facilities they have, and so got a kind of a pretty good idea of those. And I've worked in the Big 12 twice, and I've been on every campus except Lubbock, and so I have a pretty good idea of what we're competing against. And I also believe not only are we very fortunate and very excited to be in the league and being affiliated with such unbelievable and great institutions and great ADs and great coaches, but we also believe we bring a lot to the table. to the Big 12, and in a region that is very excited. And we hear about the Governor DeSantis a lot these days, last week I went up to Tallahassee and gave him the first jersey with the Big 12 logo on it.
Wow,
cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Cool.
You mentioned the 5 schools. You're one of the 5. Who are the other ones that started in the 1900s? Do you know?
I think I have to go back and look. It was us, Houston, Miami.
Paul, would Florida State be there?
I think Florida State existed.
I think they were there. The university might have started. It was a women's college, but I think it might have started prior.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It had a couple different versions of itself before it became what it is.
Do you feel like what I would call the youthfulness, and I hope people don't get that wrong, the how your school has risen and what it is now and what it brings to the table and the younger alumni, don't you think that might help even in a way like what Brett Yormark's trying to bring a youth infusion into the conference?
It's interesting you say that. Actually, Tyrell, their new CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, he actually talked about us a lot. I mean, I don't know if I remember if it was your show, and I apologize if I'm repeating this, but I've done a couple of Big 12 shows, is that we have 98% of our alumni are living still. Okay. We have 350,000 alumni. We have 85% of them live in the Central Florida area, and the average age of our alumni is 38.
You're making me feel really old. I got a daughter. I have a daughter who's like.
So we're very youthful. So we talk about being youthful, refreshing the Big 12. We're the state U. 30% of NASA's employees are our alumni. This university was started for the Kennedy Space Center, and so it was. I mean, our 50-yard line lines up directly parallel to 39A launch pad, and that was done on purpose. So we got a lot of really cool things in Florida, and I think so. It's and obviously the region, the citrus area, and so you'll see coming up this year the space game we have every year where you see the Citronaut. That was the name that we had at one time before we became the Knights. Citrus area and astronaut Citronaut.
I love it. I do love it. Now, someone on our chat room said that the Air Force Academy might have been a post-1900 university.
They might have.
But
listen. Well,
they had to have been.
I'm sure they can fact check me. This is just what we have, and we could be wrong.
Well,
but they're not Power 5.
But not a Power 5. Air Force Academy is a great institution. But, Texas Tech started in 1923, so they might be in that conference.
I think Texas Tech may be one of them.
Yeah. The money, what you were getting in the American Conference, and I know there's a buyout figure, and I don't know how that's spread out or how one chunk or 4, whatever, but now you're going to get not all, but a nice chunk your first year in the Big 12, and eventually that's going to get up. You know the numbers, the new extension that Brett Yormark negotiated, and then also college football playoff. How much of an infusion is all of that to all of the other things you answered Paul's question about the growth in facilities and staff and much more?
Well, okay, say that again.
So you're going to get, what is it? Your first year in the Big 12, was it like 18 or 19 million?
So we agreed to come in. We got a buyout of the American that's been chronicled out there. So I mean, it's 18, it's 19 the second year, and then you become a full share member. I'm not telling you anything, and I've talked about it in some of the media outlets before. But your travel's different, your personnel is different. You're trying to catch up some of the staff. I mean, it's just once what you were already getting paid in the American. We were roughly getting close to $9 million in the American, so you're not talking about a lot more money. Of course, it's when you have to self-generate, adding another $10 million or $9 million to your budget, always good. But it's not something when you start looking at your charters, your everybody chartering, where we haven't done that in the past. You getting your staffs up, paying your coaches a little higher, trying to get almost every one of our women's sports in the top quarter or top third of the Big 12 now, and then we still got a lot of work to do with men's basketball baseball and football. So,
as far as your overall land that you have to cover, for you guys that are coming in for the American, you guys have kind of crazy travel schedules anyway. So the Big 12 doesn't really change things that much for you, does it?
No, not really. I think that what really changes is the way that the Big 12 travels. We've chartered before men's and women's basketball, but because of our location, we have two airports here. We didn't always charter every game. Now you're chartering to every game almost, plus even some of your volleyball programs, some of your soccer programs, some of your baseball programs are also chartering. Well, a 30-person charter is almost $80,000. So it's significantly different in cost, and adding coaches and adding personnel, adding content people. We have a buyout still that we have to pay. You have to buy in to the Big 12. So it's the travels, but it's just how you travel is a little different. That's really some of the bigger price items that we have. Okay, here it is, guys. UCF, UCLA, Miami, Texas Tech, and Houston. Those are the five teams.
UCLA, Miami, Texas Tech, and
Texas
Houston.
Tech and Houston.
That's awesome. All right, good to know.
Yeah.
Terry, there are rivalries in Florida, and I know you want to have more of them. Will you be able to do the I-4 rivalry in other sports outside of football?
Well, we won't have consistent competition, with I-4 where you're playing them in every sport. Even, when you play Florida or Miami or Florida State, they're one-offs. You may play them in basketball one year. You may play them in baseball. It's just harder to do that. We may do it. We may look at doing something with Houston. They have, obviously they have something in the space. They have a lot of connections to space as well. A lot of their engineers are part of their space program there. So we may do something like that, maybe make a big deal about that. But really, it's going to be harder to, usually those partner cups, you're playing them in every sport. But we're happy to say that we after our women's golf team yesterday beat USF, we now clinched it. So
that's great.
7 years in a row, we never lost to them. So that was good.
A couple more things. I know you got to go. Grant McCaslin's name's been in the news because of the run he did at North Texas. He was a part of both Texas Tech and Baylor staff. You hired him, right, as a basketball coach at the Arkansas State?
Yeah. I hired him from Baylor. He was an assistant at Baylor. Had many conversations with Scott Drew about it. So, which I'm a big fan of him. And had many conversations when we hired Grant. Grant is not a good coach. He is an excellent coach. Great communicator, great recruiter. Really good teacher. It was great. I'm so happy for him. We've been texting back and forth, and I'm really happy for Kirby Hocutt too. He's, I don't like to compete against him, but I know he's really good, and I think he's going to do some really outstanding things in the Big 12.
All right, so
I really do.
I got to know, if you're in the same room or phone conversation with Scott Drew, who has never seen a bad day in his life, and he is very much, as you know, full throttle, and you are too, how does that conversation ever stop?
Oh, that's funny. No, it is. He is just a super good guy. And we go way back. I knew him when he was the head coach at Valpo, and I was at UMKC. And his dad, he worked for his dad, and a guy we hired at another school, Rex Walters, was his assistant coach at Valparaiso. And it's just, the family's really knew his sister, really a great family, and he's just a good guy to talk to. And, we go to Big 12 meetings last year and had a little time with him, and I saw him in the airport one time. He's just one of the easiest guys to talk to, and he's super, super nice. And I know you guys know Baylor's excited to have him. So
no question what he's done. If you had a scale of 1 to 10 about joining the Big 12, what would the number be?
You mean like excitement level?
Yeah.
10, of course.
I was going to think. I thought you were going to say like 100. Okay, 12. There you go. I was just.
How about 12?
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah. Hey, Terry, we appreciate it. We're excited. I can't wait for this new conference to start. The first year is going to be a little bit different because Texas and OU, of course, with another year left. But, man, it is going to be a sledgehammer in every way possible across the board. I look forward to seeing how all of it falls.
Well, hey, I got one question for you. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what do you got? What are people in Waco saying about all the new teams coming in?
Oh, I think that, honestly, because they were held hostage in a way for a long, long time with decisions and power struggles and all that. And with Texas and Oklahoma, initially it's like, oh, my God, where are we going to land? And then, of course, the opportunity and the way that Bob Bowlesby reacted with the 4 new schools, I think everybody has been thrilled. There's some schools that maybe people say this or that about. I've heard nothing negative at all about UCF and Orlando and the fact that they'll have a flag inside that state that's so fertile with incredible talent. I have not heard anything there at all.
I think outside of people maybe being a little sad you won't play people you grew up playing, I don't think that I think that's the one little, pimple on this whole thing, if there is one, because everybody else is just fired up, especially to go to 4 new cities, all of which are cool places to go watch games. It's great. Like I think people, have seen, the bounce house on TV and know how fired up that place gets. So they know that when they go there, it's going to be a fun thing. And nobody needs another excuse to go to Orlando, Terry, as you know, but that they have one now is going to be great. I think it's going to be great for your city and great for your university all the way around. So everybody's super fired up about it.
It was good. I went to the Big 12 basketball tournament this year. We had some meetings up there. I was there, and I walked around on Wednesday and Thursday, and I had my UCF stuff on. We did a couple of interviews, and the amount of people, Iowa State, Kansas State fans, everybody was just Oklahoma State fans, just great about, just so positive. Like, hey, can't wait to come to Orlando. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's really a cool thing. And then you got an innovative guy like Brett Yormark that is really thinking about how we do business in a little different way, maybe a non-traditional way, how conference does business. And you got really talented ADs that us 4 ADs get to join, which is, and by the way, 2 of the ADs I know well, and I know Tom Holmoe, that's former, head coach of the Cal Bears, and he brings a lot of football knowledge, played in the NFL for a long time. I mean, just an outstanding person as well, high integrity, and so we're just thrilled, man, to join the club and be a part of it. And so we look forward to and cherish the time we'll spend in Big 12 footprint.
I've said I know you've had to go like 3 times, but this is it, I promise. Have you, here you guys are entering officially July 1st. What would you say at all? Is it somewhat on your radar about what's happening with the possible growth even further west? Is that even something? How does that affect someone like you on the East Coast if that was to ever happen?
Yeah, I think we definitely think about it, and it's very positive. I mean, if that's ever happened, I think, Brett Yormark said it best, we're open for business. And I think we are the future of college. I think our conference is the future of college athletics. I really do, based on some of the demographics, where we are, the tradition of some of the academic programs, the athletics programs, the youthfulness of some of the new teams coming in. And I think that we're an unbelievable conference to join. I think I think people are already talking about it, and you hear and you read all the stuff that I do. I don't have anything to share, but it's exciting. And we look at from a standpoint of, from a football, if you ever went west, you get on the plane once every 2 years, you go west or whatever, or how many teams you play. Geography is not necessarily how far it is and how long it takes to get there. And, the challenge is some of your Olympic sports that might, but, when you're in the Midwest and you're traveling to, Lubbock or Iowa State, what's another, hour?
Yeah. Terry, sell them out. Get those last few tickets done. I look forward to that.
I think, I think we're at 99.7 now.
That's awesome.
Just like being on this show.
I think we absolutely. We'll wait for that commission check. We're joking. Thank you, man. Can't wait. Thanks for
Appreciate
your time.
You guys.
Terry
Thanks, man.
Mohajer,
Thank
AD, Director of Athletics at UCF. Man, you could feel that. And, John Cunningham, a little bit more laid back when we had him on from Cincinnati. He mentioned Tom Homo. We've had him on. And, of course, John Pesman, the AD at Houston, was great when we had him on the show. In fact, he even said he was apologized because he had not been able to get on with us. It's good to hear the new incoming teams with UCF, and also that's Terry Mohajer, their AD.
Well, look, the ability for people, and look, I saw Barry Crawford on the chat room say, "Oh no, Kansas to Orlando in October. Why would I want to leave the cold and go to Florida?" It's great. And look, people don't need an excuse to go to Orlando. You don't. I mean, there's, of all the cities in the Big 12, that's the one with the easiest amount of stuff to what are we going to do on these 3 days while we're here, or maybe even longer. That's what I think is going to be kind of cool for the Big 12 and probably for the city of Orlando is you've got a bunch of new fan bases now that will say, you know what, we're playing UCF this year on October 15th. Guess what? I'm going to take the kids out of school for a long weekend, and we're going to do Universal Studios or Disney World, real quick while we're there and see the game, because you have now a couple of excuses to do it. So I think there's a lot to do it. And look, there's great stuff in Cincinnati and Houston, and Provo's pretty much just BYU, but Utah, there's tons of stuff to do in that state all the way around. But I think it's just good. It's going to be good all the way around for the Big 12 to grow in this manner and to be in Florida, where the dudes are.
Yeah, it doesn't
cannot hurt you.
It's just like the schools in the SEC when A&M joined the conference. Not that they weren't getting into the state of Texas, and now even more so with UT about to be a part of it. It allows you to say, hey, maybe only once every other year, but we may play a game in Florida or vice versa. But appreciate him, and you could tell it means a lot. And financially, maybe not as much immediately, but it will be right down around the corner. When we come back, Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. We are 1 week out from the NFL draft. What happens the last week before everything begins in Kansas City this year, the host of the NFL Draft, and this is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza, Marcos.com online. Pizza lovers get it. Go to Marcos.com. I don't even have it up in front of me. I can tell you right now they have the Magnifico pizzas available. You can go, there's a code for Pepperoni Magnifico, which is a pizza with, if you have like a pepperoni pizza, basically whatever spots are open, they'll add another piece of pepperoni Magnifico. The sausage Magnifico, basically almost like double Italian sausage. And then on top of that, there's the pepperoni sausage combo Magnifico with all the pepperoni covering the pie, and then on top of that, Italian sausage. They have other options. They have pizza bowls. They have salads. They have drinks. And if you want as well, specific type pizzas. And they have that cauliflower crust available if that's something that interests you. Bob Mock owns the 5 stores in Waco. There used to not be one here. Now there are 5. Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, Hewitt, and in Robinson. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jeweler, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
This is 365 Sports. It's time for our weekly segment with Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com.
Prescott fires, caught, Lamb, touchdown.
Brought to you by the First National Bank of Central Texas, with 5 locations to serve you.
Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com. The draft 1 week from tonight in Kansas City. Mickey joins us. Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoak. Craig Smoak is over at Baylor football practice, and it was a torrential downpour that just hit us here recently. And I don't know if they got caught up in that. It's in the indoor.
He was cranky, but he still has to walk from where we have to park around the building.
No, after that near catastrophe on the highway on the way here.
A great day for him.
Yeah. Mickey Spagnola. Mickey, a week from today. So what happens? What do you button up in the last week leading up to a draft if you're an NFL franchise?
Well, you're finishing up your kind of position by position analysis, and then you start putting your big board together. You start putting grades on guys, first round picks. And I think one of the other things they do, and Stephen Jones points out, I think repeatedly, that generally in most drafts they have 15 to 18 first round grades on players. And then after that, I think you have another level of grade that, like, okay, so if we're at 26 and all our first round graded players are off the board, who would we still take that might have a second round grade but would be worth drafting in the first round? So it's almost like 1A, then 2. And put the round grades on players. And then after that, when they get into next week, the last couple days, I mean, they go through their own mock draft, David. They'll sit there and try to project what teams are going to do and then what the scenarios they might face when they get to 26. And they'll do several of them to make sure that, when you get to 26, do the best you can to not face any surprise decisions. Like, if this happens and that happens, then what do we do? Sort of like what happened a couple years ago when they did their mock drafts, and then not any of them did they have CeeDee Lamb falling to them at 17. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, look what just happened. So you have to kind of look at all the different scenarios and the contingencies so that you're not on the clock and all of a sudden you've got a surprise and it's like, what do we do now? They try to prepare the best they can for most situations.
All right, Mickey, I'm putting you on the spot. You've got 1 week. I know that you've gotten into your dudes now and what guys you've looked at 26. They haven't moved up. They haven't moved down. They're staying right there at 26. What do you think is available, and who is the one that you would like to pick? You called Micah Parsons a couple years ago. So
yeah, but what was that pick?
That was 9, right? And they traded back to 11?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you're trying to tell me that I got to project 25 picks to find the 26th one?
If you're wrong, we don't do a segment ever again.
Mickey, you've been in this business.
They can't do that themselves. I was just talking to somebody. The other day, and I said, "Now everybody wants to know what you're doing at 26." And he looked at me and he goes, "Well, okay, tell me what all the 25 picks are before we get to 26." That one's a little bit more difficult. Look, here's my deal on that. They're not going into this draft with this idea that I got to have a guy at this position. And I think that's healthy. That's the most healthy way to go. You give me a position other than maybe quarterback in the first round, I can make an argument for that they can fit that guy onto this team. But I don't think that there's just an absolute necessity that they got to have this. And I think when it comes to that, then when you get to that 26th pick, then you look at the players available, the grades you have on them, and then I think some of the consideration is draft status priority by position. Like you would prioritize drafting a defensive end, a cornerback, a wide receiver, overtaking a guard, right? By just how you value positions and what makes your team successful. And so I think the good thing is again, give me a position. I'll make an argument that guy can fit in on this team.
Let's say cornerback.
Okay, you got Trayvon Diggs going into his 4th season, and remember he was a 2nd-round pick. They traded for Stephon Gilmore, but he's only got 1 year left on his contract, and he's getting up in age, by the way. Jordan Lewis is in the last year of his deal. They're high on Deron Bland. They don't know about Kelvin Joseph. Anthony Brown's coming back from Achilles. He's still a free agent. So, yeah, this draft is not always all about 2023. You got to look to the future. And next year they could use a corner. So there's nothing wrong with having some depth at the quarterback position by taking a corner if that's your best player at 26.
So when you're saying that, even though they have Bland and a couple of young guys that might be around a while, and who knows about contracts, as you mentioned, they could take it at a corner, quality corner, because it adds not just to who they are as a depth chart, but also to who they have going forward.
Right, and from a salary cap standpoint, as we saw this year, it's hard to re-sign everybody because somebody's probably going to offer somebody more than you think he should be offered, or that position should be paid. So if you have a young guy that can take over, like Bland, let's just use him for an example, then yeah, you're ahead of the ball game if you hit on these guys, right? Now, they want to re-sign Trayvon Diggs. Let's not make any mistake about that. But again, how much is it going to cost? And again, you know, they wanted to have Tony Pollard back this year. I think they were hesitant on whatever he was asking for on a long-term deal, so they franchised him. And it buys them another year to either work on a long-term deal or say, okay, well, we got you for one more year, and then we'll move on and find somebody else to take your spot. So I think those considerations go into the into the draft. It's not all about, well, I got to fill this hole, and I see a lot of things, and I'll just throw one out, that because the Cowboys lost their starting left guard, Connor McGovern, that they got to have a guard. Well, the Cowboys in their history have only taken a guard in the first round twice. Zach Martin and John Nyland. John Nyland was in 1966. So that tells you about the franchise, no matter who is in charge of it, who's the head coach, who's the GM, who's the draft guru. That tells you what they value a guard if you're trying to take one in the first round. Can't you have one in the second, third? How about a free agent? Nate Newton was a free agent, right? He came in after the USFL folded. So you don't have to have a first-round pick at every position on the offensive line. At some point, you either got to develop somebody or hit on somebody in the second round, Larry Allen, right?
Yeah. And also, does that also mean you got to hit on somebody that was maybe not expected to be a pretty good player in Terrence Steele?
Yeah, exactly. Unrestricted.
Yeah.
An undrafted free agent. And again, if you're looking at tackles, now think about this. So he's restricted, which, by the way, he has until tomorrow if he's going to sign an offer from another team that the Cowboys have a choice of matching, or if they don't, they get a second-round draft choice in return. Otherwise, I'm sure they would like now. His tender's $4.3 million. Can they make that less if they sign him to a 2-year deal and give him some money up front? That's always a possibility. But yeah, you got to hit on some guys like that, some surprises. And then the other thing, I always say, if I'm going to take an offensive lineman in the first round, my number one priority is tackle. Well, can a tackle play guard, Tyler Smith, and then transition to tackle eventually? Well, what about next year? What if they can't afford to re-sign Terrence Steele to a long-term deal? Well, if they take a tackle that steps in and plays guard as a rookie at the left side, if he's capable of doing that, then I can cover that for this year. And then next year, I got an alternative at right tackle if I can't afford to sign Terrence Steele. So there's a lot of, things like that you've got to consider going forward. The other thing is, longer on the offensive line, I'm kind of writing about it for tomorrow. What if Steele's not ready to start the season? Because chances are, he had his ACL repair the middle of December. Well, if you think, 8 to 9 months, that's getting close to the start of the season, meaning will he have practice before the season starts? And if not, then what do I do? Well, if I draft a tackle or I put Tyron Smith at right tackle, that gives Steele time to kind of get ready to start the season. So they've got to consider that too. Now, they keep saying he's ahead of schedule, but what schedule? Everybody's a little bit different. We found that out about Michael Gallup this last year. So, they won't have an answer to that until, June, July probably, on where Terrence Steele is exactly at. So I could make a case for taking a tackle who plays guard, but that guy's got to be good at 26. I can make him a case for a wide receiver, and running back too, by the way. Everybody said, well, you can't draft a running back in the first round. Why not? What if the guy's the best at his position left and better than anybody else at another position? Why wouldn't I take Bijan Robinson if he was there? I got no problem with that. And going forward, if I've got that guy, then I don't have to overspend to re-sign Tony Tolbert next year if he's not agreeable to a long-term deal before, July 17th of this year.
All right, Mickey, you did. I brought up Micah Parsons earlier because you did a couple years ago absolutely sing his praises more than anybody else and nailed that one. Do you have, not that you're picking who the Cowboys should get, but do you have a guy that you like that much in this draft?
I mean, most of the guys I would like are probably in the top 10, right? 12,
Yeah.
something like that. I don't consider myself a draft guru who sat here for 3 months studying these guys. But I just kind of look at tight ends. Now, the tight end position. Now, this is an interesting one because everybody thinks they need one because they lost Dalton Schultz, right? But they didn't lose Dalton Schultz. He chose not to re-sign here, right? Because he didn't make a heck of a lot signing for Houston. It was a 1-year deal, which tells you what his value was against what his perceived value was on a long-term deal. And I think he was still butthurt because they didn't sign him to a long-term deal and franchised him last year. Well, there's a bunch of tight ends out there. But to me, if they take a tight end, that guy's got to be not just a fancy guy that goes down the field, right, and catches passes. They need one that can block, too. They need a Jason Witten, who, by the way, they found in the 3rd round. Now, I keep hearing about it, and seeing the highlights on the guy from Georgia, Darnell
Washington.
Is it Washington, right? 6'7", 260, 270. He might be an offensive tackle. I don't know. But it sounds like, and he hasn't really been a proficient a receiving tight end, but it sounds like he's not a bad blocker. Well, I could see them doing something like that, but do you have to take that guy in the 1st round? And that's the deal. Can I get him in the 2nd? What if somebody gives me a 2nd round pick to move to 3rd or 4th pick in the 2nd round? I might have to consider that too. So that's why, I'm kind of hesitant to say, oh, I love this guy. Well, if I love him, somebody else should love him too, right?
Yep. No one's a secret. Mickey, thank you so much. Appreciate your time next week. Let me know about your schedule Thursday afternoon on draft day of what you might be doing so we can try to squeeze you in, make sure we get you on before it starts.
I think we might be able to do it as long as we're in the 4:00 hour, I would think.
No, we'll be fine. That's perfect. Mickey Spagnola with us, DallasCowboys.com on 365 Sports. We'll come back and discuss Oklahoma Spring with the second-year head coach Brent Venables. Josh McCuistion is next from Soonerscoop.com, and this is 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe. When Braden Embry sent me some copy points, a couple of things that I don't even need the copy point for this one, that they have been in business since 1943, and to me, that's as good an endorsement as you could possibly have. Now they have the new facility, more than twice the size of their old one, allowing them to carry new inventory as well as higher quantities of inventory in a much more organized fashion. The location may change, but the values will be there and have never changed. And, of course, that means customer service. Relationships with customers go much farther than just business. And in fact, he added this note, like Coach Aranda says, person over player. We feel the same way about our customers, and they do. One of the things about their new facility is they have standard long lengths and tubing angles, channels, rods, and flat, but now carry several shorter, more convenient lengths of that material. So now you can pick it up and take it home or to your construction site and be done with it. 2,500 square foot showroom with over 1,000 new products in stock. Pioneer Steel and Pipe. Pioneer Boys, pioneerboys.com. We've received nominations from Central Texas High School counselors for the 13th annual Academic All-Stars team. The selection process underway to find the elite student athletes. Hi, this is David Smoak. Nominations include student athletes who thrive and succeed in both academic and athletic competition. We'll select a 20-member team this month and announce the Academic All-Stars team on Monday, May 1st.
The 2022-23 Academic All-Star team is brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, Westdale Asset Management, Southwest Sports Medicine, Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, HEB, Ray Broker AC, Alliance Bank, The McLean Group, Universal Windows Direct, Hal Whitaker and Louis Englander Scholarship Fund, the U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Center, IdealMRI.com, Bubba's 33, the Baylor Club, and 501c3, the Waco Foundation.
We'll
honor the 13th annual Academic All-Stars team at our annual banquet Wednesday, May 17th at the Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium. We're proud to recognize the elite student athletes in Greater Central Texas and be involved with this program. It's the 13th annual Academic All-Stars team right here on 365 Sports.
It's Ram Truck Month at Allen Samuels in Waco, and the deals couldn't be any hotter. Get a new 2023 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with values up to $4,250 plus 4.9% for 72 months. Or get a new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with 1.9% for 72 months or 10% off MSRP. That's right. Come pick from the best selection of brand new inventory in Central Texas at Allen Samuels in Waco while supplies last.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543. Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
This is 365 Sports. Are you a Sikkim 365 super fan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Josh McCuistion, Sooner Scoop, dominant source for Oklahoma football and recruiting. He joins us on 365 Sports with Paul Catalina, Craig, and David Smoak. Josh, thanks for your time. Obviously, things have to go better than they did in year one. You have to replenish the roster, a lot of changeover. Where do you really, what are the realistic expectations? Because Oklahoma's not going to just kind of go through a 5-7, 7-5 type rebuild, are they?
Now, you understand you're talking about Oklahoma. Realistic expectations, that's not a thing.
No.
But, but no, I think, I do think last year was something of a mental reset for OU fans. Kind of it's not, I think they got so accustomed to things being so easy, and a berth into the Big 12 championship game was just a foregone conclusion. That's the way it's going to go every year. And I think they really had to face that this is harder than it was looking at times. And what I do think is interesting is kind of for Oklahoma to go where Oklahoma fans want it to go, which is beyond the Big 12 championship, beyond, a conference championship of any kind. They were going to have to change the way they were doing things. And so I think there's some of last year that was just it almost had to happen at some point. They were going to have to go through some growing pains. Now, last year with some of the ugly losses, Baylor among them, where, Oklahoma just never could get the stop it needed to kind of get back in that game. I think that's going to be the interesting thing to watch this year. As far as expectation, you look at this schedule, and if OU hadn't have gone 6-7 last year, you're looking at that schedule thinking this, a team like OU and the success they've had, that's a playoff schedule. That's a team you should go 11-1, 12-0 against that schedule. But with what happened last year, there's always this, I don't know, you just don't know what to expect from this team right now.
Josh, how active do you expect them? I know active. They're very active. How successful do you expect them to be in the portal here in this next couple weeks?
I think you're going to see them make some moves. There's definitely a lot of talk of Brennan Thompson, the receiver that left Texas. I know there's a lot of connection with he and Emmett Jones being a West Texas guy, with Emmett and his time at Texas Tech. I think there is a lot there. We're kind of expecting maybe to hear something this weekend. So that's a starting point. And that's one of the positions where, again, people have gotten so used to, Oklahoma's got a great wide receiver room. They just kind of assume it. It really had fallen off over the last couple of years. Last year, Marvin Mims was their one consistent playmaker on the outside, and you lose him, and, you lose some guys, some experience in the portal, and Theo Weiss going to Missouri. So I think you're going to see some action there. It wouldn't shock me at tight end, where Oklahoma currently has one scholarship tight end going through spring practice right now. They have two others, but they're both injured. They brought in a guy, Blake Smith from Texas A&M. He hasn't been able to go this spring. So they had to convert a defensive lineman into a tight end for just the sake of practice. They've had a guy they took from a Division II basketball program that wanted to try football. He's running tight end in practice. They're kind of scraping the barrel right now. So I am interested to see that. And obviously, a guy like Bear Alexander, they've been active there. They're trying to make that work. I don't think anything is going to come of that. I think that'll be USC. But there's no question. Brent Venables and these guys, if they want to get to a place where the portal is a luxury and they go get, like I said, like a guy like a Bear Alexander that's a quality talent, a guy they think can help them. But they are very adamant that they don't want to be a program that lives in the portal and really is, using that for 10 or 12 guys a year.
Josh, what's the feel around Dillon Gabriel being back? Obviously, Jackson Arnold, a highly heralded guy, waiting in the wings as well. Jeff Lebby getting that first year under his belt. Where do you kind of look, and what are the storylines when it comes to Gabriel, Lebby, Arnold, that whole room?
I think obviously they're a lot more comfortable with where they are, because if something were to happen to Dillon Gabriel like it did last year against TCU, they have a guy, Jackson Arnold, that while he's young, they obviously believe in his talent. Last year, we all saw the Texas game. Oklahoma just kind of went into a shell and tried to limit the score from being too bad. So, I think now it's kind of a twofold thing where, they feel good about Jackson Arnold. At the same time, you look at Jeff Lebby's offenses, they've always run the quarterback a lot. And they didn't do that much last year because of that very problem. They were afraid if they lost Dillon Gabriel, they just couldn't run their offense functionally. So I think you're going to see a little more action in the run game from Dillon Gabriel. I want to see what they kind of do with Jackson Arnold. Do they put some packages in? Because he is a better runner than Dillon Gabriel is. Do they do some things in that vein to kind of utilize what he can bring and kind of differentiate himself? But, I don't think there's any question. The offense I wouldn't say it was the problem last year, but it certainly needs to be improved. And I think even Jeff Lebby was very open that last year there were things they learned. I think some clock management was a problem at times, but it'll just be to me, it's about what they can get out of that receiver room. They need some guys to step up. Jalil Farouk is the most experienced guy, very talented, but hasn't really put it all together yet. And Andrell Anthony is a guy that really transferred in from Michigan that they're pretty excited about. Big, long, athletic guy with a lot of speed. They seem to think he could be an impact guy pretty early on.
What do you think about the new schedule with 14 teams, and now it's different because there's not everybody in the conference playing everybody. So there are teams that Oklahoma has played in the past, including Baylor, that's no longer on the schedule. Your thoughts about how because really they had the game with, what was it, Georgia, that was canceled. So their first few games, with all due respect to them, looks like they can jump out to a nice start.
It really, I think that is huge for them. Now, you say that, and then you look at last year, and 3 weeks in, you thought, boy, this Oklahoma team, they're just off and running, and then obviously the wheels just came off. So, yeah, I do think it's important for them, especially defensively. I thought last year there were moments when it looked like they were playing good football, and whether it was fatigue, just, due to having some limited numbers defensively, and I think they have addressed that largely, although, you're talking about a lot of youth having to fill in some of the depth right now. There's better numbers, there's better talent, but I thought for Oklahoma defensively for 5, 6, 7 years now, there seems to be this mental block where they're just waiting for the other shoe to fall, and as soon as a problem emerges, or as soon as a team converts a 3rd and 12 or something, it's just like the whole defense just kind of collapses on itself and starts making mistakes that you haven't seen all day, mental errors, poor tackling, whatever. It manifests itself in a lot of different ways. It's going to be interesting to see if they can build some momentum early on, build a little belief, and Brent Venables can kind of do what we've seen Brent do so many times in rebuilding a defense. But, again, it's so funny because I see these pieces and I think, okay, this can be better. This is a better group. But after last year, there's just like 6 and 7. Like, you can't get it out of your brain. It kind of hangs in the back of every thought you have whenever you start to believe that, hey, maybe this year's different.
Josh McCuistion with us, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports from Soonerscoop.com. Is there somebody that is a sleeper that you feel like maybe is under the radar just based on intel that might be someone that can contribute pretty quickly?
Like I said, I think the Andrell Anthony kid, it's because when I talk to people at Michigan before he, when he transferred in, it was kind of this question of, what went wrong? Why are they in this situation? Why did he leave Michigan? Because for those that don't remember, this is a kid that had like a 7-reception, 180-yard day against Michigan State as a true freshman a couple of years ago when Michigan State had that great 11-2 season. And you thought, well, okay, this kid, he's born for stardom. And it just never really happened beyond that. So you kind of wondered, well, what's going on here? And you talk to people, and it sounded like just drops. He had a problem with drops, and that was an issue. And, he has all this length and speed. But when you talk to people at Oklahoma, they said he's been great. I mean, he's caught everything. It hasn't been a problem. Now, what do you get when it starts to matter and the lights go on and there's 75,000 people screaming? You just don't know. But he's a guy I would definitely keep an eye on, and I think is really, really one of the surprises. I still think nationally people probably don't realize how good Billy Bowman could be for Oklahoma. I think he could be maybe that first sign of the defense really making a turn, because I think Billy Bowman has fringy, All-American type talent if he can put it all together.
Josh, what's the feel surrounding this final year in the Big 12 and getting ready for the SEC? I'd imagine that's going to be kind of a side storyline, is how they're doing currently, but also how that's going to help them, moving forward. But I'd imagine a lot of excitement, anticipation. How would you describe it?
There's definitely excitement. Like I said, I think last year has created a little bit of anxiety just because people don't know, like, what is this? Like the Oklahoma teams of the last 5 years, they can play in the SEC. Now they may, lose some games 63-60 because they just can't outscore everybody. But it's just an interesting deal where it feels like Oklahoma really needs this year to go well to kind of continue recruiting momentum. They've got a chance for another really good class following up last year, which was, the best class OU's had in like 15 years when you look at the rankings. So Brent Venables came out, and in spite of a really shaky year on the field, they had a great recruiting class. Now, if you can double that up, start to get better up front, where I thought that was one of the strengths of the class, was the offensive line and defensive line. There's some real NFL-type talent in there. If you can do that for a second straight year, then you start being ready to play in the SEC. Because I think we all know on the perimeter, OU has the talent to play with just about anybody year in and year out. It's just, can they match up front with the big boys in the SEC?
Josh, we'll have you on again hopefully sometime during the summer and obviously in the fall with fall workouts in August. Craig, anything else for Josh? Thanks for your time. We appreciate you. We've known you for a long, long time. Thanks for the knowledge and insight.
Hey, anytime, guys. Always enjoy
Josh
it.
McQuistion, Soonerscoop.com with us. Somebody asked in the chat room about the running back position. I just Googled depth chart. Javonte Barnes, Gavin Sawchuk, obviously Marcus Major, who times kind of flashes. Washington transfer Emeka Megwa. And I don't know exactly if there's others that are a part of that. That was a story that was in March, so just wanted to throw that out to you since you asked on the chat room, and we appreciate you doing that. By the way, this is a picture from a storm chaser. And I sent it to, this was in Troy, which is not far from Waco on I-35. There's that storm. It's not a tornado, but we are in a tornado warning around the McLennan. What?
I think it just ended.
Okay, if it just ended, that's good. And obviously there have been some bad moments when it comes to that kind of weather in the Waco area. We're now joined by Blake Blackmar, former Baylor offensive lineman, cook extraordinaire aficionado, who joins us for a couple of reasons. One, the letter winners have their coaches get together, get to know each other tomorrow night. That's private. And then there's the barbecue competition and judging on Saturday. Blake, thanks for your time. This thing's starting to build a little momentum over the years now?
Oh, heck yeah. We've got a couple more people competing this year, which is a big ask because you're really, A, you have to have a pit that you can get to McLean, and B, you've got to be out there all night cooking, which some people might not see as fun, but a lot of us do. And then we're also getting buy-in from Coach Aranda and the football program, other alumni. We're getting more events and vendors set up. So I think we keep this thing going, and it's going to be a blast this year. In a couple of years, we're going to have a good number of people coming out to the BU spring games and enjoying it and make it a real kind of game day tailgate atmosphere.
All right, Blake, so what's the menu for you?
Okay, so this year we've switched it up from last year. We're still doing brisket because I'll die on that hill. A barbecue competition in Texas has to have brisket. Brisket ribs. Instead of chicken this year, we're doing chicken wings specifically because, hey, that was a request coming from some previous judges. Hey, the chicken was good, but let's see what y'all can do on the wings. And then instead of steak this year, we're doing more of a people's choice tailgater best tailgate dish. So that could be anything from, like queso, buffalo chicken dip, to sliders or burgers, whatever. So for me personally, I'm bringing my classic Texas style salt and pepper brisket, which I'm pretty proud of, pretty excited about. The ribs, I haven't decided on my final flavor profile, but it's going to be St. Louis cut. Going to be definitely more of a Texas style rib, heavy salt and pepper. I'm going to be using some favorite sweet heat on there as well because that's my go-to rib rub. Haven't decided on my sauce combo, but it's going to be light on sauce, that's for sure. Chicken wings, that's the big shakeup. I've been playing with, because I do a really good, just classic smoked buffalo chicken wing. It's easy for tailgates, easy for parties, but I don't want to be too basic. And I know at least one other team is going to do a smoked fried wing. So I'm looking at potentially what I want to do there. I might do buffalo. I might change it up. I've been playing with like a Korean style barbecue sauce that I like a lot. I just don't know if it'll be too different. Don't know how the judges will like it. You can't ever go wrong with like garlic parmesan or something along those lines. So, and I've been doing some product testing on that as well. So I might be looking a little beefier than y'all last time I saw you guys.
Blake, if you could kind of take us through just how this all got started. I mean, clearly you dove right into the cooking and barbecuing and all that kind of deal, and you're on with us a bunch, and then next thing you know, there's now this alumni deal, and just kind of take us into that, and also describe sort of the camaraderie that's been built as a result. I mean, of having the ties not only of just Baylor, but also having the barbecue, the grilling side of this kind of coming together for people as well.
Yeah, so it's pretty. I'm pretty open about how I've definitely replaced the hole that football left in my life from a time perspective and like a craft and a passion to devote yourself to with food. And man, I love it. And kind of doing the tailgating thing, bouncing around, doing some other stuff. I started hearing whisperings that there was another Baylor football alumni talking about a potential barbecue competition or wanting to do something to get some of the older guys, the older generation of players back into around campus. And Robin Jones and I got connected, and this was really Robin's idea, and I was just like, hey, barbecue in Baylor, I'm in. I'd love to be a part of it. Got connected with some alumni organizations, and last year, it was a smaller event. We had like 8 teams, but Coach Aranda came out, and we had a good prize pool, and more people came and checked us out as they were walking up, checking out the stadium, and it was so much fun. The Friday night before, hanging out with a bunch of guys that played in the 90s and early 2000s and swapping stories and just talking about life. It became such a big, it was a big party, big camaraderie deal, and it was so cool to connect with the football alumni base. And so this year we got to go rolling again. We had more support, buy-in from football. They love it. It fits hand in hand with Coach Aranda's kind of his mission to try to bring a lot of former players back into the fold at Baylor, because there's been some coaching changes and they've happened all in this past decade or so. And there's a lot of guys that played in those realms that don't know any of the existing coaching steps, but may not feel comfortable coming back. And we're just trying to basically have this go hand in hand with, hey, let's get fans, let's get former players here. Let's get as many people to come to this event as possible. Last year we had a couple of players' parents stop by, and it was fantastic to talk to them, but also to have them talk about, man, I want my son to come to stuff like this. I want my son to come meet you guys so that we can talk about life after football, get connected within the Baylor community for potentially finding a job or whatever, right? There's so much good networking that goes along with it. And when you're talking barbecue and spring football in Texas, it's a good time.
Blake, you also had a couple of things show up on your front porch today. Is that correct? From Texas Beef House, which is our latest sponsor, newest sponsor?
I did. That was pretty much the nicest thing that showed up on my doorstep in a long time. Was a few briskets, and I'm talking about fresh, still frozen, and I got one defrosted right now. It'll probably be what I turn in for the barbecue competition, because I was looking at the marbling on it compared to the one I have from HEB, and I was like, I don't know, this is pretty impressive. So my first go around with them might be this barbecue competition, and I feel pretty confident that we'll be able to put out some really good results.
So Blake, I just got to ask, who's judging this? And can you trust their expertise? Like, say someone that might be asking this question right now.
So we wanted to focus on getting like former players and other prominent people within the Baylor sphere to judge. And so this year we have the full list is on the website link, but from a football perspective, we have Clay Johnson, Connor Galvin, Grant Miller, Mo Porter, an O-lineman from my class, who has been, I don't think he judged last year, and he was hurt. He was upset, emotional about it. So I made sure that to get him in this year. And we also have the dean of the business school and a couple other prominent Baylor figures. And I championed for you guys this year, but there's this whole everything we have to deal with is like it's complicated with like the licensing and who what kind of businesses can be on the venue since it is Baylor property. Well, there's all of that stuff that I'm trying to navigate because that was fun. But this year we should have some pretty fun judges, and everyone. At least I made sure to pick a couple of football guys that I know can eat. So we should be okay.
Smart decision.
So, Blake, it's actually fitting. I didn't know we were having you on today. And last night I just happened to be listening to this random podcast with Dave Grohl talking about how he fell in love with barbecuing. And it's like he's just talking about it so excitedly for like an hour. And one of the things I found interesting was him talking about all his toys that he's accumulated in his rig and how he's upgraded over time. So that leads me to ask this. What are you working with? And how has that kind of changed over time as you've learned more and learned what you like and do all that? What kind of toys are you working with nowadays?
Yeah, I've got so currently I have my 150-gallon propane smoker on a trailer. It's got a charcoal grill on the backside, offset, fully insulated firebox, and that's my baby. That's what I cook all the tailgates, cook on for all the tailgates. And that'll be what I'm cooking on tomorrow. I am trying to figure out and save enough money to upgrade from that to just a bigger version of it. I love that pit, and I would really just want to get like a 250 or even a 330 or a 500 version of that because for cooking the tailgate, for sticking 365 and everything, I would just love to be able to have the capacity to cook more than 5 to 6 briskets. I've also got a PK charcoal grill, that's what I won the state competition on last year, and I'll probably bring that just as a backup, maybe if I need to grill off some wings or something. And I have here at the house, I have another offset that's smaller. It's in my backyard. I have a pizza oven. I have a drum smoker. I have an egg that I mostly just use for grilling. If I have a flat top. There might be one more in there but my wife's getting mad at me. She said I have to start getting rid of them if I get any more.
Blake, it's great to have you. One quick question. Obviously, the game's on Saturday. The offensive line last year had a lot of experience back, and it just never seemed to click. Your thoughts about what you saw and what – I know you haven't been to a practice because they're not open. I don't know. I guess you could probably go because you're an alum. But just what
I'm actually going to practice on Friday before the competition.
Okay.
Check out the walkthrough, see some guys, shake some hands. But yeah, last year I was in the camp of, hey, these guys are going to figure it out. And I think in general, it was really just a lot of it just never seemed to click on the offensive line, but also for the offense as a whole. And I think a lot of that probably stems from, I don't know if it's like the expectations, because you want those expectations on the offensive line that you're going to lead the way, that you're going to be elite. And I don't know exactly, where the disconnect was, but I think part of it was probably guys having one more year of film on everyone and in the wide zone scheme and everything, having some things to because it never looked like any one guy was necessarily having a terrible game or getting blown up. It just never seemed to be all 5 guys in the unit on the same page 95% of the time, and all those players are really talented. All of them are, you're able to swap in and out, but I think, it's just the more years you get guys in that wide zone system, seeing the Big 12 defenses facing the 3-3 stacks and doing things like that, the more I think you're going to be able to handle what they throw at you. You got a quarterback with another year under his belt. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of advanced like checks and options out of different plays and calls. So I would expect a good bounce back year from the offensive line. And even though the expectations were high, last year's offensive line was still pretty good. And so if that's a down year, I'd be pretty happy if that's how the offensive line performs in a down year. But we definitely want to get back to seeing the road graders up front, making holes, running for 200 yards a game, and just pounding the life out of people.
Blake, you mentioned Aranda being around for the event last year. Just what have you kind of been able to gather from him when you've been around him? What have been your thoughts now as he's entering year 4 here in Waco?
I mean, I can't say enough good things about him. The guy is very personable when you talk to him, very welcoming of former players, very smart and intelligent. I never get the feeling that even when you're talking to him post-practice or something, he always seems very engaged and like he almost seems like he's looking to learn or get your opinion on things when, I'm really just happy to be there. Happy to be welcomed back, and just all I have is good things to say about the team and what he's doing. From watching the product on the field, I think he handles things with class. I mean, the whole Gary and Blake Chapin situation last year, I think that speaks more than anything about the type of character you're talking about. And I think that probably he was getting a whole lot of praise for situations like that, and then the season didn't necessarily go how a lot of people expected, and then at the end of the season, he basically said, I think we were being a little too nice to people and being, on the team and being a little too, coddled or whatever. And he definitely has the ability and the staff to be, hard-nosed, nose to the grindstone, hold people accountable, and that's what they're going to do this year. I really enjoy my time with them. I enjoy watching the team, and I feel that we're in pretty good hands.
Blake, can't wait to see you this weekend. Thank you very much. Good luck with the competition. Enjoy that gathering tomorrow night. I know that's become special for the new coaching staff or the current coaching staff and the alums and letter winners as well. We appreciate your time. Represent us.
Heck yeah, good talk.
Blake Blackmore, former Baylor offensive lineman, with us they have a big get-together that's private with letter winners, alums, and coaches, and then they start immediately. Some of them have already started cooking, and they cook throughout the night. Competition on Saturday. Game is at 12. You want to take a break here, Paul?
No, I got to call him.
All right, let's go back to that. The only reason I want to go back to that picture, that tornado warning has been canceled, or at least no longer, but I want to give Quincy Vagel at least credit. You see his name, that's how you say it. Thanks to Quincy, gave us permission to put that video up. That's pretty awe-inspiring, really. It's amazing, Mother Nature and the clouds and how it can look, but it looks like it is at least cleared up for now, thank goodness. But a ton of rain. Daniel Acton, who watches the show in the area, said he was having some even sleet that hit him a little bit, but it appears again that it's calmed down, and we needed the rain. John Machota, TheAthletic.com, joins us on 365 Sports. Craig and Paul, I'm David Smoak. John, thanks for your time. Do you feel like that the Cowboys have their board set, or will they tweak it between now and next week?
No, I think it's probably pretty set right now. I mean, they've had all their visitors that they're going to bring in. And, I'm sure there's some discussions that can happen once players start coming off the board next Thursday that maybe, that maybe a player like the one I always go back to is that CeeDee Lamb draft that, they did multiple mock drafts within the organization and never had one come out that CeeDee Lamb would still be there for them. And so because of that, I think that they're pretty set with what they want. But, when you're picking at 26, a lot can change ahead of you. And so they're going to have to have a lot of different scenarios mapped out of, different ways that they could go. But with what they've done in the offseason and in addressing, some positions that we would have thought going into the draft they have to address, filling those needs, and the fact that they don't draft till 26, outside of, I don't see them taking a quarterback in the first round. I don't see them taking a safety in the first round. And that's pretty much about it. I could see an offensive tackle. I could see a corner. I could see, a linebacker. These aren't the biggest positions of needs, but if the best player is available is at one of those spots, I can see them taking that.
John, do you have a player that you think fits them really well?
So I really like Michael Mayer, the tight end that I feel out of Notre Dame that I feel like a lot of mocks have put to the Cowboys. My thing with that is I'm not a huge fan of tight end in the first round, but I do think he'd be a great fit for them because he's one of those tight ends that really he never has to come off the field. He can block in the run game, and he's an outstanding pass catcher, and he's the type of guy that, I could see him being on the Cowboys for a decade. And so I think that would make a lot of sense. But I would say that is more of the realistic. There's a part of me that thinks that keeps thinking about you just never know, going back to the CeeDee Lamb thing. And because of that, that's where names like Bijan Robinson and Nolan Smith and Jackson Smith and Jigba kind of stand out to me because it's not crazy to think that one of those guys could potentially be there at 26. And if one of those three are there, then, I mean, you got to take the best value, and I think you have to take one of those guys. And so I would say for somebody that I have my eye on a potential slip, it would be Jackson Smith and Jigba. I think he's the best receiver in this class, but maybe there's other teams that have Jordan Addison as the top receiver, or maybe another team like Zay Flowers more, and all of a sudden the Cowboys are sitting there and, man, have the chance to put Jackson Smith and Jigba with CeeDee Lamb. I mean, you wouldn't be able to pass on that. So that would be the most intriguing one for me.
And the thing about him is he's a big play receiver. He also makes the regular catch. It's not like he's not a possession receiver at the same time. He's spectacular. The Cowboys have done a better job of, not that they haven't moved up or down, but they've done a better job of letting the draft come to them without reaching. How much has that helped them build the roster they have? Not that it's flawless, but how much has that helped them build the roster they have right now?
Oh, big time, because for a team that doesn't really do much in free agency and via trade, that's been the lifeblood of this team. I mean, this team, you look at their top players, and almost all of them were drafted within the organization. So that's why you see a team that generally doesn't trade. Let's say, you'll see some mocks where they have them packaging their first and second round pick to move up and take Bijan Robinson. This organization just hasn't done stuff like that. And I don't think they can do it now because of the fact that you're going to have to pay Dak Prescott another contract. Next summer, you're probably going to have to pay Micah Parsons, making the highest paid defensive player in the game. You're going to have to pay Trayvon Diggs. You're going to have to pay CeeDee Lamb. And so it's kind of like, that contract that Jalen Hurts just signed with the Eagles. That's great for the Eagles. He proved that he is their franchise quarterback. But with that comes a little bit more of a difficult time when it comes to adding players, like they did that past offseason through trades and free agency. You got to draft really well. Unfortunately for the Cowboys, that's been their best part of their roster building is their drafting, and particularly with Will McClay heading things up. So they're in a good position. So because of that, they got 7 picks, 1 in every round. I just really don't see them packaging anything to move up. If they were going to package any picks or do it and get involved in a trade, I think it'd be to move back and add extra picks.
All right, so let's say Jackson Smith and Jigba and Bijan Robinson, and they won't be, but you never know. The draft can be weird, are available. 23, 24, 25, Cowboys at 26. If either one was available, which would be crazy, but if they are, would they take Smith and Jigba because that's more of the need? Because, my God, Bijan Robinson does look really good, too.
Because it's 26, I think they'd take Bijan Robinson. At the end of the day, at the very beginning, you asked about their board. I just don't see any way that Jackson Smith and Jigba is higher on their board than Bijan Robinson. I'm hoping that we get a chance for Jerry to flash that board again one time after the first round's over. I would like to get a cell phone picture. I'd like to be able to break that down. I just feel like when it's all said and done, the Cowboys will probably only have somewhere between 14 to 16 first-round grades. I do think Jackson Smith and Jigba will be one of those, but I think he'll probably be more in the 10 to 16 range, whereas I see Bijan Robinson being clearly top 10, and he could very easily be a top 5 player on their board. And at 26, I understand the argument against a first-round running back. I just think he's so special, and what he could add immediately, and then over this next 4 or 5 years, to me, that just makes a ton of sense. I'm taking Bijan Robinson, and I think they would do the same, especially because Jerry Jones can have the last say. I think it'll be really tough for him to pass on Bijan.
John, since you've been on, I did 2 quick mock drafts, and I selected Michael Mayer, number 1, and Pro Football Focus gave me a C, and then they keep giving me B pluses on Bijan Robinson. I'm beside myself with rage that they won't give me credit for making a good pick.
Tight end's boring.
Tight end is boring, and this is such a deep draft that I'll be honest. Whenever I do a mock for the Cowboys, like a full 7-rounder, every time I'm like, there's good tight ends that are available at 26, but I end up passing on it because I like tight ends that you can get in the 2nd and 3rd round. And this is a team that I just really feel like that at the end of the day, they'll probably end up feeling the same way. I mean, they got Jake Ferguson in the 4th. They got Schultz in the 4th. That's the one thing. But if they have Michael Mayer as this guy where they think he is the complete tight end, that, hey, he can be a 10-year starter for them, I can understand when we're talking to them after the first round's over, I can understand why that would be the case.
John, thank you very much. A week from today, and we'll have the draft in Kansas City tonight, 1 week from tonight. John Machota, theathletic.com, getting a double dose of that today with Mickey and also with John Machota. a little bit around the corner. We got a couple more topics to get to. Also want to get back into the text line and chat room with you. And this is 365 Sports. So get ready to experience the jewel of Woodway like never before. Join the city of Woodway for the Arbo Fest coming up on Sunday, April 30th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. to celebrate the grand reopening of the Carling Bright Arboretum. They've been doing a lot of work on a lot of different projects in the city of Woodway, and they are going to have the grand reopening on April the 30th. Again, it's the Woodway for Arbo Fest. Come enjoy the vendor market, food trucks. Those are always so popular. Live music from Blue Water Highway, and so much more. The Arbo Fest will have fun activities for the entire family, including scavenger hunt, face painting, yoga on the lawn, and so much more. Join to celebrate the grand opening of the Carling Bright Arboretum, the Arbo Fest, Sunday, April 30th, 10 until 4. And for more information, go to discoverwoodway.com.
Richard Carr is loaded with GMC Sierra trucks. Make your best deal in years. Step up to premium grade GMC Sierra and save thousands at Richard Carr. Right now, qualified buyers get 2.9% financing and $3,000 in savings on most new 2023 GMC Sierra SLE, SLT 1500s in stock. Call now, get here now, or log on to richardcarr.com and drive home your new GMC Sierra today. See dealer for details.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
The future's bright, the time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones and financial advisor Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Appreciate everyone who watches us, listens to us, finds us later on. Had somebody today, I mentioned this at the Texas High School Football Hall of Fame meeting, that said, he goes, I love your stuff, you guys, and what you do on 365 Sports. I said, do you listen live? He goes, no. I go and then pick and choose the segments like a buffet, which you can do, of course, on a podcast. So BU Bear in Arkansas put up a picture. He goes, please share this with Blake for his wings. Not going to put the picture up on the show. Hot and spicy Japanese barbecue sauce, which I've seen at H-E-B. I've seen that. It's there's a lot of different type sauces now, and of course that's the bigger store that they remodeled in off of Wooded Acres. All right, now let's go back into the chat room, see what everyone's talking about right now. Somebody said, I hope your Poeta Greens are getting happy. In May, they ought to be rolling because of this rain, and eventually we're starting to get some heat as well. The thoughts about the earlier Paxton said something about UT's looking for a run blocking type tight end. If that's your only problem, you got a pretty good situation, right? That you're looking for a run blocking tight end. Someone said, I can't hear any thunder. Well, no, it's been out there. No question about it. Let's see here. Retired stockbroker, we dodged a sell earlier talking about the weather around 3 o'clock, but this one in Waco is supposed to be red when it hits around 11. Well, we're not done. There's still a possibility of a whole lot more coming. Most of it's now talking about the tornado, echo, and all that people have seen before. All right, so Jackson, Smith, and Jigba, Bijan Robinson, if you had, let's say, your first round top 15 or 18, obviously Bijan would be a part of it. I don't know why Jackson, Smith, and Jigba would be a part of it too, correct?
Yeah, I think
top 15. I don't think that's a guarantee for everybody necessarily.
For me personally, I'm putting him in my my top 15.
I think it's another thing that requires a little bit of nuance. Like, are we drafting for the Bears or is this our personal preference?
Yeah,
let's do personal preference.
Personal preference. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba is my number one receiver just because he is the best overall route runner. Now, it does scare me a little bit that he missed all of last year, but heck, most players have missed time. He's an excellent player. I think that, in my opinion, Bijan Robinson's I would rate him like the 7th or 8th best player in the draft. And maybe I'm discounting because he's a running back there, but I do think that, especially if you think about, look, you're talking about one guaranteed contract, and I know that, for 5 years with a running back, and I know that your goal is to get a couple, but if you can get a guy who for 5 years at running back can be a game changer for you, then it's worth it. So if you're the Cowboys and he's at 26, it's a no-brainer. If you're at anybody above that, I think that it's pretty smart too when you need one. I don't think he's going to get to the Cowboys. I think that the Chargers at 21 are a potential spot there. 19 the Bucks. 10 at the Eagles, the Detroit at 18. Those all are all ones, but I have both those guys in my top 10 for sure. And they're the best, in my opinion, at their positions in this draft.
CBS Sports, this just happened to be on my Twitter timeline. Adam Shines, top 5 receivers. Zay Flowers, Jonathan Mingo from Ole Miss, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jordan Addison, and at 5, TCU and Central Texan Temple High School's Quentin Johnston. Haven't heard a lot about him at all. In fact, I saw something pop one time that said he's the biggest make or break, biggest star or bust wide receiver possibly in the first round or two.
Quentin Johnston?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like him. I like Jonathan Mingo too, although I like Quentin Johnston a little bit better. Mingo's a big dude in the realm of the other Ole Miss wide receivers like DK Metcalf and AJ Brown. Big dude, real fast. Can really get out in space well and catches all around his body, all that stuff. So I think he might have suffered a little bit this year because Ole Miss just wasn't great at throwing the ball. Not that they were a bad team, but there's a reason that they brought in 2 different quarterbacks in the spring. So, yeah, Jonathan Mingo's one of those guys who was rated a little lower and now has kind of shot up the charts, especially as teams have gone to pro days and see that he's 6'2", 220, runs in the 4.4s. Big dude. Plus, I think he's getting a little bit of bump because of A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf.
I don't have a breakdown of. To answer your question earlier, it's Bijan over JSN 10 times out of 10, 100 times out of 100. I don't think that Bijan's going to be still sitting there when Jackson Smith-Njigba gets his name called. Maybe I'm wrong on that. I think both are great players, but yeah, give me Bijan all day long, unless it's just such a dire need for a wide receiver that I have to have that guy. Then that's the only way I'm answering Jackson Smith-Njigba. But yeah, what else? Because I don't have much to follow up on with Paul as far as Mingo or anything like that. No. I'm at that point now where I'm just ready for the draft to be here and to be over with and to talk about where guys actually are.
Yeah.
I think it's fun for a while, and I know we'll do it a few more times, and that'll be fun. But you do get to that point where all of a sudden it's like a week out, and you're like, just get there. You know what I mean? Like, let's just stop. Because if I see one more Eagles Bijan Robinson tweet, I swear to God, it's bugging me to no end because I probably clicked on one tweet, and now like the Big 12's topic section of my, whatever tab that is on Twitter, it's every Bijan Eagles tweet known to man every day. I clicked on one thing, and now it's all it is, and they are obsessed. There is like an obsession in Philadelphia for Bijan Robinson, just based off the Twitter that I see. But I'd imagine that's probably that way in some other places. But yeah, I'd be happy to see it all if he was actually an Eagle at this point. You know what I mean? But he could very well be 31 other things. So I look forward to seeing his coverage more now when he's settled in somewhere and you can go, okay, here's his quarterback, here's his O-line. How can we project that? Because I think at this point we've kind of said all there is to say about Bijan Robinson. And
there is one thing that came out yesterday I saw for the first time, that he might be used by, I don't know who it was, but the possibility, could they use him like Deebo Samuel? So you could maybe keep the wear and tear off of him. I think isn't Deebo bigger, like much bigger? I don't know, maybe it's not a lot of – it looks like a different – Paul, are you paying attention to me?
I'm listening to you.
What did I say?
A different receiver?
No.
Yeah.
Is Bijan Robinson capable of being used like Deebo Samuel to keep some of the wear and tear off of him?
I don't think you're getting him to use him that rarely,
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. I think they'll – he's going to be a bell cow back no matter what. And they're going to –
Barry Crawford on the chat. A hybrid tight end just helped Kansas City win a Super Bowl. And one that made Brady look really, really great for years. It's become a very important position. I absolutely love the hybrid tight end. And the Cowboys, that's the one thing. Dalton Schultz was a security blanket, but he rarely was going to give you more than 6 to 12 yards down the field, if that. He wasn't going to get you down the seam for 30. If he did, he did, but it wasn't very often.
Yeah, if Michael Mayer is the second coming of Gronk, that's great. Like for whoever gets him, and if it's the Cowboys, awesome. I personally lean more towards Dalton Kincaid just because he seems to be more of a touchdown machine, but I like them both. And the Cowboys to me are just, they're in a spot in this draft that, get somebody good. They've done well in the first round. The Cowboys don't do really well is in the second round most often. The first round, great. Second round is where they usually, take a guy who's torn his ACL 4 times and then they, they kind of rebound in the later rounds and found a gem. But the second and fourth rounds, any even-numbered round, they're not really that good at.
All right, I'm going to tell you this as a Washington fan. Go ahead. You got something else, Greg?
Yeah, Bijan's bigger than Deebo Samuel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
He weighs more. He's not taller. I don't think – side by side, they're probably negligible, but based on these last readings I saw, he's about 5 pounds heavier than Deebo Samuel is. I don't think that's an apples-to-apples thing, but I can see where you want to protect Bijan maybe in the – a little bit more than you would just a guy that you go out there and give 25 carries. And then again, I could see somebody using him up and then recycling him in 5 years, like they've done with so many other running backs in the league. But yeah, I think he's Bijan. I don't think he's this guy. I think he's Bijan Robinson. And if you get him in Philadelphia, that'd be a hell of a toy to have. And for anybody else, I just hope he lands somewhere where it's going to matter. We saw. Sometimes you see guys go to teams and you just automatically know, like, oh, God, like that sucks for them. And I just hope that's not the situation for him. I'm not saying that he's going to get signed up with a Super Bowl team right away. But, you never know who jumps up to maybe grab him or get a hold of him. But he's going to be special for sure. I think everybody realizes and has that feeling.
I think he's fantastic. And what I love about him, and some running backs can do this, when he runs and turns on the jets, his head doesn't move. He's sliding. Le'Veon Bell was like that early in his career. And I'm not trying to compare. I don't know what speed Le'Veon Bell had compared to Bijan's got flat out. If he gets loose, he's gone. You just hope he keeps that for the years he's in the NFL, because sometimes you lose your treads.
Yeah. Look, you're talking about four or 5 years right off the bat. Get that out of him and see what happens. Look, Le'Veon Bell could have had a lot better career if he had not, relocated his head up to his posterior. Just take the money, man. Like, you make none if you don't sign and don't play. You'll never make that up again. Like, even if you signed a contract that paid you twice as much, you still left money on the table. If you get $0 for a year, that's money you may make more later on, but you don't really make it up again. So I think Bijan, and I do. I mean, I think because he is so savvy and smart, and I mean, he is everything you want. Like, there is not a lot bad you can say about this guy at all. I mean, from everything up and down the line, I think that he's a no-brainer for almost anybody. If you're even kind of questioning your running back, boom. And look, the Giants pick at 25 right before the Cowboys. The saving grace for the Cowboys, if they do want Bijan, is that Saquon Barkley is there on the franchise tag, much like Tony Pollard. But again, if you're the Giants and you can have Saquon and Bijan for a year and then send Saquon off and save a bunch of money, I mean,
John McClain in his mock draft on GallerySports.com has Bijan going as high as 6 to Detroit. Jackson and Jigba Smith going 11.
Smith and
Jigba going 12 to the Texans, who have that second pick in the opening round after they have that overall number 2 pick, which is expected to be Will Anderson, not a quarterback. That's John McClain in his mock draft 6.0. There'll be 2 or 3 more before it is said and done. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina's top 5, and this is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on, and right now they're celebrating their 24th anniversary sales event. So hop on over to Richard Carr or drive on over to Richard Carr and take full advantage of all the great deals they have as they celebrate this special anniversary event that includes big savings on pre-owned cars and trucks and special savings on GMC Sierra and Buick Envision SUVs. And when it comes to the Buick SUVs, they're luxurious, but they don't necessarily have luxurious price tags. What they do have is smooth and quiet riding when you're in the vehicle driving or as a passenger. Right now, qualified buyers can get low financing, but plus save $2,500 on Buick Enclave Premium or $3,500 on Buick Enclave Avenir. So check out the Encores, the Envisions, the Enclaves, the whole lineup of Buick SUVs over there at Richard Carr. If you're looking to go the pre-owned route, however, well, they've got a lot full of quality pre-owned cars and trucks over at the dealership as well. Many of them in stock are under $20,000. They're thoroughly inspected, they're affordable, and they're ready to finance for almost any credit rating. Quality vehicles over at Richard Carr right now, ready to drive today. And maybe you just want to be in the car that you're in for a little while longer. Well, check out their award-winning service department standing by to keep you on the road. Go to richardcarr.com to see their service specials or set an appointment for quick and reliable repair. For 24 years in Central Texas, they've built a reputation as the people you can count on for your automotive needs. Run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Aaron Duvall, owner, Texas Beef House. Why did you get into this business?
We kind of were born into it, and it's been for several generations. Our family's been in the beef business, the ranching business, and we've specifically got into the beef business back in about 2015 when me and my son decided to form Texas Beef House and sell directly to the public.
Aaron, everyone knows about Wagyu and how elite that is when it comes to beef. What separates you from anyone else that may do this in this type profession?
We selected out Wagyu mainly because it's such a quality beef and it's consistent. Some beef, some breeds, you may have a good animal every now and then, but Wagyu produces really consistently good beef every time.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Top 5 Big 12 portal questions. It's portal week, the next couple weeks until I guess the 29th. The portal's open and it's going right now. But the Big 12 has a few questions that I wanted to pose to you guys. Number 5. Who will be left wanting after the window closes? Which team is not going to get what they want and is not in a position to get what they want right now? After the news today, I'm going to tell you, I think it might be Cincinnati. Not just because of what they don't get in, but because of losing Ben Bryant. If Emory Jones is going to be your starter, that is not a question I want the answer to.
If the answer's Emory Jones, you don't want to know the question?
I don't want to know. Yeah, I don't want to know it. He's been at 2 spots. He's not at his third. Unless Scott Satterfield has some sort of witch doctor on the staff or there's an Angels in the outfield situation, I don't know how that's going to be good for that offense. So I do wonder who, because there's always going to be one team that's kind of left out of it. And look, Baylor didn't take enough people in the portal a year ago. They didn't really do enough at certain positions. So they were one of the teams. I don't know if they were, or was it 2 years ago where I feel they didn't do enough.
No, it was last year because I asked they won titles.
Yeah, that's true.
They were fine.
So a year ago I didn't think they did enough at certain positions to do what they needed to do
because he said he wanted to give those who had been around, and it didn't work out.
Well, it also struck out. I mean, Jackson Player was not what you expected him to be. I mean, he had a fine season, I'm sure, but he was not the guy who stood out at Tulsa. I can think, and I like Jackson a lot, but I think he would admit his frustration with last year. And some of that's on him, I'm sure. Some of that's on the staff. Some of that's just, everybody can share responsibility. But they hit big on the handful of guys they had 2 years ago, and they were just kind of last year. As far as I'm trying to think who else besides Jackson Player was a transfer in.
Okay. It wasn't a quarterback. It was not a defensive back, I don't believe.
y'all can't help it all here. Josh White, and Luke Anthony, and was that it really?
Yeah.
I guess they didn't go too high into that. CJ Rogers wasn't really.
And he would help. And by the
transfer.
way, the competition. I got to note that the competition at Texas State, he did not win the quarterback competition.
Yeah.
I think it's Malik Hornsby.
Yeah, maybe that's why none of us can think off the top of our heads is because it was like two guys. So they didn't really even delve into it. And so that was like a 50% hit rate anyways because Jackson did not hit at least to the level that they thought he would. So
and he only had a year. And so now that we'll see what happens with Josh White. So.
Yeah, I think Josh White's going to be fine in the long run. But yeah, it's a tricky proposition, the whole transfer portal thing. I can tell you right now, the guy on the right is not really looking for anything. I just saw an interview with him yesterday that he's saying like it would have to be a want rather than a need. They don't have needs. He said, we've got dudes. And so he's, at least in Lubbock, they're not really scouting for any transfer portal guys unless they just absolutely have to have somebody. So, yeah, there are a lot of people in very different positions for sure.
Yeah. Number 4, does Texas have a big move or two up their sleeve? Because Trill Carter was a nice one from Minnesota that they just picked up along the defensive line to help their depth there. I'm wondering of some of these other guys that are in there, are they ready to make a move that will put them in real contention to hold on, down the line? Because look, people can, poo-poo the portal all you want, but right now it's really affecting. If you get the right guys and they have to fit the system the right way, you're talking about maybe the difference between winning the conference and not.
Yeah, I think they've pretty much made their big moves. They've made some nice. I don't think that's a team that.
Because they don't really need to. That's why I wonder if they can just go, all right, well, this guy's here. Here's a position where we could be a little better. Let's go get him.
Yeah, to answer this question, I have no idea. But, yeah, they would be as well positioned as anybody, you would think, just with what they already sell anyways and also just the position that they're in heading into next year, at least the way that it appears, where, they're probably the odds-on favorite, if not, neck and neck with Tech probably for the favorite next year in the Big 12. So, yeah, it's entirely possible. I just don't know who that would be for them.
Yeah. Number 3, what does the TCU wide receiver room look like now? I don't know if there's a position group in the Big 12 that will be as different as this room from one year to the next, considering that Darius Davis and Quentin Johnson are both gone. In the NFL draft, you already lost some transfers in. You are out. You brought some transfers in. Jordan Hudson leaves now. Look, if the wide receivers were in a room with the coaching staff and they closed their eyes and said, okay, everybody who's going to leave, go out. Everybody who's going to be here, come in. Would they know all those guys' names right now? It's pretty interesting. And look, they'll probably make quick work of it, but it is pretty interesting that this is a position that had so much flux on this roster that was so strong last year.
They got a kid named DJ Allen. I don't know about his expectations. He was highly recruited. USC, I think. I know Baylor was in on him. He's a redshirt freshman, and I'm looking at their depth chart. It's not like he just popped up to the top of my head. But
depth chart is basically all transfers.
Yeah.
Their depth chart is numerous transfers, whether it's Jalen Robinson from UCF, or whether it was
J.P. Richardson,
JoJo Earl, J.P.
Alabama.
Richardson from Oklahoma State. That's their wide receiver room. It's not the guys who were there for 4 and 5 years like they had last year. Darius Davis was around. Quentin Johnson was around. Those guys were at least 4-year guys, and that was homegrown talent. And Jalen Robinson, was at UCF, and then he was at Ole Miss. He's on his 3rd team now with TCU. So on paper, that looks great. Those are all guys who have proven something or were highly rated. But, yeah, it looks a lot different. But it's not all a bunch of just no-named freshmen, having to fill in the blanks. They went heavy in the portal at wide receiver.
Earl from Alabama, Trey Sanders, the running back from Alabama, Tommy Brockemeyer, the offensive lineman from Alabama. Hey, those are guys recruited heavily. Can they be who they were coming out of high school as far as reach that would help set them up pretty well.
Yeah, I like that Alabama is TCU's developmental squad. Number 2. Can Baylor fill the holes in the secondary? I think. They did really well to get Vaughns from Utah State on the defensive line as a pass rusher. I think that another defensive lineman probably wouldn't hurt them. But I do think that the biggest thing they need to worry about is the secondary. That's the one where they have the most questions. Can they get some guys in there that are ready to start, ready to play in the Big 12? That, I think, will affect this defense a ton this year. And look, Dave Aranda has proven in the past, like he coached it at cornerback U and got a lot of those guys in. So if you want to come and play for a guy who can coach you up, as a head, I mean, he just give you expertise. That's a good one, but there's for the guys that are in there right now, there's a lot of other factors other than can this guy make me better on the field, because we're talking NIL here and those defensive backs are getting a lot.
How much does Matt Powledge come into play in perhaps also giving them a spark too?
Can they? Will they?
I'm leery of this.
Yeah, I don't know. Especially they're talking about playing more man-to-man. All I know is they cost themselves a lot last year by having to basically prop up that secondary to not have it giving up 5,000 yards per game in the air and 25 passing touchdowns. I mean, they basically did everything they can to keep the dam from breaking back there. They can't afford to do that this year. Clearly, that didn't work very well for them. So can they? Yeah. Will they? I don't know, because like you said, if it was normal times, then they could probably find a transfer or two just on the up and up. But now in NIL, I mean, there are teams who probably have 3 corners that are like, well, we'll just go buy another one anyways because they can.
Well, there's one 90 miles south that's doing it. So.
Yeah, I mean, because they can. So, and at Baylor, they don't necessarily have that luxury to do that. But if they're going to pool their money together and go get somebody, it'll probably be at cornerback. That's where my bet would be more than anywhere else for sure.
Yep. And number 1, can OU get enough starters to contend? I think that we heard from Joshua Quiston earlier, they have expectations, but this is a team that I mean, I don't think we're talking, Craig, and maybe I'm wrong here, about they're like 1 or 2 guys from being back in it. Like, they've got a lot of spots to fill on this roster to be back in it for conference contention. I think they'll be better than they were last year, especially if Dylan Gabriel just stays healthy. They're a win or 2 better no matter what. But I do wonder, do they have enough guys and enough depth right now to contend for the conference, or can they get enough in the portal to make that happen?
Craig is an OU guy and loves the program, but I got to ask you this. If they're not better than last year, will Venables be there for year 3?
Yeah, I don't think you can make a coaching change heading into the SEC. I don't believe so.
Didn't think of it that way.
I don't believe so. I mean, I just think that's way too much turnover to ask for, and then you're throwing out the new guy that very first year to basically just get smashed on, and then you make the move, and I don't know. I think you give it a year. If Venables gets his head kicked in 2 years in a row now, then you have every justification in the world to do that. But I don't think that firing guys after 2 years is a very smart practice. I mean, maybe that's the new practice in the SEC that they'll start to adopt, but I don't know. I think you got to give it more time than just 2 years to see. I mean, that was a big investment in him, and that's a guy that they knew very well. I think to bring in somebody that close to the program, as the successor to Bob Stoops and Lincoln Riley and all those successes, I think he probably has a shorter leash than having just free reign. But I don't know. I think it's very interesting that you kind of heard the skepticism in Josh McCuistion's voice. And I've been saying, I love the SEC move just on the surface of, the travel, the places, the new teams. I mean, every week seemingly will have kind of a name matchup, except for the weeks when you play some of the, other schools that don't have as much pizzazz as Alabama and Auburn and Florida and Georgia and all the others. But that's a very short list. That's Vanderbilt and,
Missouri,
but there's Oklahoma's got ties.
Getting better.
Yeah, Oklahoma's got ties with Missouri. Kentucky maybe is not super exciting, but even then, in basket, there's a lot to get excited about. But I've been saying the entire time, do people, however, realize that with all that money and all that security and all those matchups and all those trips and all that's going to be great and that's going to last you a while. But there is a very real chance that you just committed some form of football suicide as far as where you've been in the ecosystem. And I know it's Oklahoma, and they've been around since Bud Wilkinson in the 50s, and they've won 7 national titles and more than a handful of Heisman and all that. So if anybody could adapt, it is probably them. But I am a little bit leery of just like, are you quite sure about how quickly you're going to jump in the deep end and just start swimming? Because
what
I'm
did
not.
Switzer say? Switzer said you're going to look back at this a few years later, and who made this decision?
I and very well could. Now, you may not just simply from a security standpoint and a financial standpoint, but if we're talking just football, I do have my questions about that move, and it'll be very interesting to look up in about 5 years and see where everybody is situated.
And Jackson Arnold's a hell of a player from Geyer High School.
Sure.
But are they going to be able to land one after another, the quarterbacks that they had the last decade?
Yeah, no. I don't think so. I don't think you're going to get like 4 Heisman Trophy winners in a row to show up on campus. That's Lincoln Riley. That's not Oklahoma. Sorry, but it's true. I mean, he was as much a part of that as any other element. So, no, I'm not totally confident that they will just rip that off. I have my doubts about just the way they're going to ease on into this thing, but we will see.
All right. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Paul. Emery, as always, we appreciate you. Jack McKenzie was here earlier. Practice today, Baylor practice. Of course, there was a torrential downpour. The media session canceled for tomorrow. It'll be tomorrow, so we'll work in on that, including Christian Robinson as a part of that, one of the new coaches on staff. Garrett, great stuff weaving in and out of what you did today. Thank you to Lauren and also Neil Stratton, Lauren Birchfield, Neil Stratton for the college prospects. We'll have more between now and the draft, and all of our guests, all of our sponsors, the chat room, the text line, constantly buzzing. Thank you so much. For Paul and Craig, I'm David Smoak. Have a great night. Be safe. 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI.